Welcome and thank you all for joining us. As you know, tonight's meeting is quite important. We're going to be interviewing all of the potential designers for our school project. So we're going to just begin with some quick introductions. Margaret and I will go through. Each of us on the committee will give a brief introduction of ourselves, and then we'll allow our first architect firm to give introductions as well, which is the Mount Vernon Group. So seeing as I'm speaking, I will go ahead. So my name is Erin Brunell. I have the privilege of being the co-chair of the school building committee, and I'm also a member at large of the Holyoke School Committee. And so I'm going to just call you guys one by one, and you can give a quick introduction. I'm going to go down the member list. Whitney Anderson, if you're with us.
Morning or good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Collmore.
Whitney, what's your title?
Maintenance Administrator, Holyoke Public Schools.
Thank you. And Mr. Collmore is our Ward 6 School Committee representative. Mr. Lubold?
Hi, I'm Mark Lubold. I'm on the school building committee, manage a manufacturing company here in Holyoke, and I coach football at the high school.
Jamie Morrow?
Hi, Jamie Morrow. I'm the Assistant Chief Procurement Officer for the City of Holyoke.
And Jessica Perella? Is Jessica with us, Erin?
I don't know. I'm letting in people. I can't be doing that too right now.
Okay, no problem. Jessica, if you're with us, if not,
she's coming in. She's coming in. She's a mother and community member.
All right, thank you. Raina?
Hi, I'm Raina. I'm a parent and a community member. Yes, thank you.
And Mr. Peter Tallman? I don't think he's with us yet, but he is one of our at-large city councilors.
And he will not be with us tonight.
Miss Deborah Vega?
Hi, I'm a member of this building committee. I'm also a parent of a third grader.
Mr. David Yost?
Yes, I'm a small business owner in Holyoke, a grandparent of students in the public schools, and particularly interested in the financial aspects of this project.
And Kanaya, I believe, Davila? Don't believe she's with us at the moment. And Miss Jackie Glasheen?
Hi, I'm Jackie Glasheen. I am the Executive Director of School Leadership. I supervise 10 of our 14 schools.
Camila Garcia?
She's here. She's using interpretation services.
Okay.
So I think that is the committee. So at this point, we're gonna pivot.
We just had one more, which was Kathy Ortiz.
Kathy Ortiz, okay.
Who I didn't get to call, but I don't know if she's with us yet. So now you can go ahead, if you'd like, Margaret, and introduce yourself, and then we'll have the architects introduce themselves as well.
Okay. So I'm
here too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Mayor and the Superintendent.
Superintendent. Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Mayor Garcia.
Last but not least. Okay, so thanks everybody. I'm gonna just briefly introduce myself. I'm Margaret Wood, and Bob Stevens, who's my partner in crime here. And we're gonna turn it over to Mount Vernon Group for a 50-minute interview. We're gonna ask them to make a presentation that's approximately 20 minutes in length, and then we're gonna have a Q&A. So we have a lot of committee members. When we get to the Q&A, we're gonna be looking for hands. So I'm going to turn it over to Frank and his team to introduce themselves. Frank,
Just
you're
unmute
muted.
yourself, Frank.
You're muted.
Okay. Hi, I'm Frank Tedesco with Mount Vernon Group, and I'm happy to be here. I would be the principal in charge for the great project that you have in store for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Daly. I'm the design principal at Mount Vernon Group, and I'll be pleased to be the design and planning lead for the company.
Who's next?
Chris?
Susan. Hi, I'm Chris LeBlanc. I'll be your project manager for this project, and I also work in our nearby Chicopee office.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hector Torres. For this project, I will be architectural job captain and the designated interpreter from Mount Vernon Group Architects. Drawing from my experience as a certified interpreter for the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, the intention is to be on hand to offer clarification or Spanish-English interpretation if the project is needed. It will be my honor to serve in this project as your Spanish language interpreter. And as a side note, me acabo de enterar que el restaurante familiar Fernández ha cerrado después de más de 30 años y es una gran lástima. So, ahora necesito sugerencias para otro lugar donde comprar empanadas. I look forward to working with you all.
My name is Marty Vicky. I'm the president at CA Crowley Engineering, and we would be the mechanical engineers for the project.
Hi, I'm Naomi Cottrell with Crowley Cottrell Landscape Architecture. I will be the landscape architect on the project.
I think we missed Susan. Susan, are you there? Susan was there earlier.
She was there earlier, but she's
I'm
welcome.
here.
Oh, there we go.
Is it a problem with my video? I can't seem to tell if it's on or not.
We can't, Susan, we can see your name, but not your screen, and we can hear you. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you introduce yourself, Susan?
Oh, yes. I'm Susan Taylor. I'm the interior designer with Mount Vernon Group Architects. I'll see if I can't figure out this what's going on here.
Okay. All right, great. Mount Vernon Group Architects was established almost 70 years ago. We've designed over 200 school building projects. Our schools are designed for academic excellence, security, technology, safety, and community use, as well as cost control and high quality materials and appearance. We believe that a great school will inspire teachers, engage students, and embrace the community. That's our pledge to you, along with the lowest possible cost. This is the Marlborough school that we're basing the model on. And here's the original site for that school. And I want to go over this because it's very similar to your site. It's very hilly. It was very hilly there, located near the high school, which you see on the right. And the building itself had many issues. It was the site itself, which is that center, the field you see in the center, was only 3.5 acres, which meant that parking would have to go on the lower field, which is the one on the left. And when we came into the project, we said, well, they were really upset that they were going to lose a field. So we looked at it. We said that the site is too small, 3.5 acres. There are wetlands on 2 sides of that site. Well, yeah. And so it's surrounded by wetlands. It had steep slopes on 3 sides. By those arrows, you can see it was the field was up high, and then on both sides going into the wetlands, it was sloped off. And then also there was a major sewer line shown in purple going through the site. So this was a troubled site, and so we took a look at it, and we had to solve all those problems, and we did solve them, and we expanded the site to 6 acres, in which we could get all the parking, off-street, queuing of cars and buses, and so we were able to do it. And here is a view of the site after it was completed. You can see we used some
this is how I am meeting.
Retaining walls, and there's an aerial view of the project there. We since that time have put on a photovoltaic array up above.
It's through the computer.
So the next slide shows the exterior of the building, and I'll turn it over to Susan to talk about the interiors.
Okay, I apologize for my video. I'm going to try and do that afterwards, but for now, I think the most important thing is that we look at some of these interior images of key spaces at the building. The main entrance lobby is an introduction to school culture, where to go and what is happening during the day. The administration office has a security window into the vestibule for addressing visitor needs quickly. And if they need further assistance, a sequence of security doors allow entry into the building. Color schemes are school specific and selected in consideration of school culture, student age group, and the available materials. Breakout areas expand in width to create, in corridors to create breakout areas, which feature floor to ceiling whiteboards, up-to-date technology, built-in storage, flexible furnishings. These spaces are intended for small participant use and special projects for both students and staff. They can help students feel more independent and confident as they mature in their middle school years. The Media Center has smaller learning areas with movable furniture that can be rearranged so multiple classes and activities can occur simultaneously. The gymnasium has hardwood floors, natural light, and a dividing curtain so the gym can serve as either one or two teaching spaces. In the cafetorium is connected to the gym with an operable partition so the two spaces can become one, and it accommodates about 1,000 people. The robust sound system means that performances are provide the proper intelligibility in both the gym and the cafetorium. The music room is connected to the cafetorium stage at the same level, so it can also serve as a green room during performances. Each general classroom is about 950 square feet. It has a variety of storage, multiple teaching walls, up-to-date technology, as well as daylighting controls. And our last slide of the interior is a look back from the second floor lobby to the courtyard, which Frank will speak to. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a courtyard from an aerial view, and you have three parts. The seminar circle on the right, the green lawn in the middle for general activities, and on the left is the student garden. The seminar circle is used as an outdoor learning space. And as you can see, it can be both for class learning or individual learning and a great place to meet. The student garden is for growing various plants, herbs, and vegetables that may sometimes be utilized by the kitchen or for science experiments. And finally, you can see a little bit of the building here. Shown prior to our putting the photovoltaics on, and see it sits well on the site. Folks were pretty happy with it, and we can modify the design of the facades as you like to some degree, and so the style can be somewhat of your choice. Chris?
This is the recently completed Athol Community Entry Model School, of which I was a project manager. And it's also very similar to the Marlboro Model School, which I've also worked on. Similar to your project concerns, cost control is very important to the Athol and Marlboro school districts. And effective cost control really begins at the start of design. We'll work closely with you to develop a cost-effective school building that meets your needs. The use of historical cost data and proven construction methods is essential to controlling costs. And we take a value management approach right from the start to maintain your project budget, as well as impact on life cycle and maintenance costs. During construction, we'll continue to work with the contractor to provide the best cost-effective solutions without compromising quality or schedule. This is the result of everyone's efforts. A school that is used for both educational and community use, including an outdoor classroom, which makes practical use of the entire project area. Upon completion, the school opened on schedule, and we were able to turn back approximately $3.7 million to the town.
I will work with Chris and the entire design team to coordinate the overall work in between our office design team and our consultants. I'll maintain the work within our deadlines and will provide a tight set of construction bid documents. And we achieved the best cost control because of that.
This is an electronic graph as it appears on MSBA's website. The little boxes represent new school projects over the past 12 years, If you click any one of those boxes, there's a lot of information that comes up, but most importantly is the cost per square foot. This meandering line, the brown line, represents the average cost per square foot, which of course are going up. This next slide shows our projects as they relate to this. And all of our projects are below average cost, and our recent projects well below average cost. Our last 5 MSBA projects: Athol, 3.7 million under budget; Ludlow, 4 million under budget; Wareham, 12 million under budget; and Marlborough, 14 million under budget. And Lawrence, which is the one shown on the far right in orange, that project, it's the lowest one. It's right at the low level of the projects of this cycle. So we have a consistent pattern of keeping our projects on the lower end and below average. And why is that important to you? Because the lower square foot cost results in significant savings to Holyoke's share of total cost. As you go higher up, most costs over the MSBA limit are 100% funded by the community. So the closer you can get to that, the less money you're going to be on the hook for. So the next slide here is actually, this is the school in Lawrence. It's a K-8 school for 1,000 students. And that was the one I just pointed out, which was the lowest cost in this cycle, or one of the lowest costs in the cycle. Like Holyoke, Lawrence is a gateway city, a multicultural community, and this is a very tight urban site. It requires age-appropriate outdoor play areas to be on the roof. The video was used as part of the outreach program that led to local funding for the project. We will use similar approaches for the Peck Middle School and in our community outreach. But as you can see, the project, although it is on the lowest end of cost for this cycle, is certainly not lacking in quality, and it certainly functions well, which is the most important thing educationally. Next slide. Community outreach, there is no set formula for community outreach. Communication is essential with thorough, accurate, relevant, and timely information, both in person and through various media. Community meetings are for airing thoughts and concerns, but it's also a good idea to learn what folks are saying about the project at coffee shops. Hector?
Well, we have an approach here at the company that diversity and inclusion really goes beyond skin color or cultural background. We grew up in different parts of the world. We went to different schools. We're able to speak different languages, and those are just to name a few. These so-called differences are the tools in our toolbox that we use to approach building and design. This gives us, the opportunity to give great spaces to the people that we serve. And at the end of the day, no matter who the users are, the quality of the spaces does influence the quality of the interactions that they have directly. Therefore, communication and community outreach is part of what we do.
Thanks. Okay.
The proposed HVAC system would be an all-electric air source heat pump system with displacement ventilation in the classrooms. The system would consume no on-site fossil fuel, with the main components would include multiple central air source heat pumps to provide redundancy for a backup or in case of failure of equipment. The system would be a sustainable system and would work well with any PV or solar plans for now or the future. Some of the benefits to this type of system for the displacement system are listed here on the screen. For a typical classroom, there are no air handling units, fans, or drain pans located above the ceilings, which is a major savings on the maintenance side. Displacement ventilation systems provide very good indoor air quality, as the dehumidified, non-recirculated fresh air is supplied at the floor level through the diffusers, which the air washes over the occupants and is then exhausted out through the ceiling, providing very high levels of indoor air quality. Another benefit to the system is the systems are very quiet. There are very few mechanical components within the occupied space. The air source heat pump system also allows flexibility and the ability to provide chilled water for cooling in certain portions of the building, such as the administration area or some of these special ed classrooms.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach to the landscape and to the site design. We think the opportunities that you have here to reconfigure your existing building and site are really pretty awesome for the community. So the way in which we work is we really do look at both what we would call the opportunities and the constraints of a site like yours, and think about something like proximity to the community resources of the dingle, the high school, certainly the active recreational fields, in the way in which we start to compose the way in which the site is designed. Can you go to the next slide, please? So in looking at the model school and how it might fit on the site, I think that part of what you'll see in a little bit when Mount Vernon Group starts to talk about how they'll set the plates of the building, we really want to start working with them on how we shift things to relate to existing topographic conditions. Can we go to the next slide, please? So in starting to look at this and looking at how we might separate entries and floors to be at different levels to take advantage of the proximity and the topographic relationship to the field. And then as the site steps down, as you go towards the high school, how that might be a way in which we can compose site elements. So one of the things that we are interested in doing is pulling parking closer to the building, having the opportunity to grade it, as you see in this lower section, to grade the site in a way that gives flat planes for not only the building, but for functional elements like parking, but doing it in a way that's really sculptural and strategic so that we can do things like hide the view of the car from the building, as well as start to relate to, again, the field and some of the larger natural elements of Dingle, and then with circulation going to the high school.
Yeah, Dennis?
Sorry, yes, excuse me. As Naomi pointed out, we are dealing with a building that's going to be built on two different levels on the site. The first floor will be at the eastern part of the school, and it will have the front door, of course, and feature the administrative wing as well as the health nurse's office. And the 6th and 7th grade neighborhoods will be on that floor. Now, the neighborhoods, there are two neighborhoods per community, per learning community. And as you see in the 7th grade neighborhood at the top of the screen, they are separated into two different parts, two different neighborhoods within the community, but with a community common between, each neighborhood having its own science room, and yet a common area where such activities as project-based learning can take place. The same happens in the 6th grade, 6th grade program being a little bit different. The extra 6th grade classroom plus other special programs are featured on that floor, as well as a communicating corridor in the back. Now, when we move to the 2nd floor, we'll see that the 8th grade sits directly on top of the 7th grade and has the same configuration. Below that, on the lower part above the 6th grade, we have what we call our innovation hub. That would give us the opportunity to bring the media center and learning commons, our tech shop and tech classrooms, as well as the STE room for the 6th grade, all in the same area, providing a very exciting group area and possibly the opportunity of bringing an ABO classroom into that area as well. So those students may enjoy the opportunities presented by the teamwork that goes on in such an exciting hub. The gymnasium and cafeteria now are on that 2nd level, yep, and in closer proximity to the fields directly outside, as well as the music room and physical therapy rooms. The fitness
Yeah.
room is also
Dennis?
available to the public. Yes.
Hey, Dennis, this is Margaret. I hate to interrupt you. I just want to let you know there's 2 minutes remaining. For the
Okay.
presentation.
Okay. Let him finish that plan. Go back
Okay.
to the plan, please.
Mhm. And so the music room is directly associated with the stage of the cafetorium, and physical therapy and fitness are also accessible. And fitness is accessible in this plan to the public without making the rest of the school accessible to the public during nighttime conditions.
Okay. So finally, we'd like to talk about the schedule where we feel we can save you some money. We're showing a schedule here. The upper schedule is the building and the lower schedule is the early site package. Now, the key to this is to begin design of the early site package simultaneously with the design of the rest of the building. And that needs to be done, completed, go out to bid, and be completed by the time we bid the made building. So the demolition of the existing building, as well as the site preparation for the new building. And coincidentally, this is almost the exact schedule to the month that we had for Marlborough. And you saw the complexities of that particular project, and we were able to accomplish that in this same duration, which will allow you to occupy the school in September of 2025, where I believe you were planning on 2026. So by saving that time, we believe you will be able to save money as well. So finally, we would like to thank you again for having us and listening to us. We believe that a great school will inspire teachers, engage students, and embrace the community. That's our pledge to you, along with the lowest possible cost. Thank you for having us, and we're happy to answer questions.
Hi, I need to do a technical thing quick. Javier, I still cannot allow you to interpret. You're just not even popping up on my screen when I try to do it. And so I've been chatting you to try to problem solve it. I'll need you to go to the chat. And I'm also hoping that if you're not signed on a laptop, you could sign on a laptop. I wonder if that's giving us a problem. Thank you.
Okay, put sound back on.
So can I open up with a question?
Sure.
So this is Margaret.
Right.
So when I look at I'm going to steal the screen from you for a moment. This is partly because you all are the first ones up.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that kind of roles are clear for the committee members. So this is what you submitted for the team.
Yes.
And so you introduced yourself as the principal in charge.
Mhm.
You introduced, let's see, you had
Dennis Daly,
Chris
Susan Taylor,
as
Chris
the
LeBlanc,
project manager, right?
Hector Torres.
Right.
Yes.
And Dennis is the programmer. So is Adolfo going to have a role in this as well?
Yes, he will. He is a project architect, but he will be more. His role is really interfacing with MSBA.
Okay.
Make sure that all things that are MSBA, and including the submittals, are in line, and that he's very good at that.
Okay. And in terms of who the committee will be interacting with the most, I would understand it would be you.
It would be me and Chris
LeBlanc.
and Hector, yeah, and Dennis too,
And
and Susan,
Yeah.
because she'll
Dennis.
be coming down. So all the people that are here today, yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's super helpful. I'll take that down. So looking to the committee members for questions. I see Dave has a hand up. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is if we have any, or if you have any estimate as to cost per square foot, maybe and break it down between the new construction and the demolition, since obviously the old building is a different size. If you have any estimates.
Yeah, at this point, we haven't done an extensive because of today's market. It's kind of volatile right now. But our projects, I think we can stay under 500 a square foot for this project, including the site demolition. And the real key to that is getting that site demolition and the site prep done quickly and before you actually bid it to general contractors who then come in and they have a site that's all prepped. There's very little site work for them to do except start excavating for foundations. So that makes the project go very quickly. We have several contractors that follow our jobs and they know how to bid our projects, and consistently, as we showed our chart, we're consistently below average cost. So I can't give you an exact number. I apologize for that, but we will. You can be sure that we're going to be at the low end as we are with the Lawrence School that we showed you. We're still at the very low end of costs in Massachusetts, and that's where we would intend to keep it.
Okay, I see Anthony has his hand up. And Frank, Anthony is the superintendent receiver.
Yes,
we didn't
sir.
really give him a good chance to introduce himself earlier.
Hi, Anthony.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for your presentation. The question I have is, we as a committee have heard that model school designs that are out there might not work with the particular site that we have because it's it sits on a very steep grade. Has your team considered that, and are there any concerns with being able to fit this model school that you presented at our site?
No, we have no concerns because we have taken advantage of the site changes as Naomi showed. We are actually elevating, so your gym is actually and cafetorium are on the second level and are directly accessible to the existing fields outside. So you can go from your gym directly in there. The site section that was shown early shows how that works. So we'll be able to get in, I think, a lot more parking than you have now, as we showed. And I believe that the school will work much better, I think, than the existing one, which I understand has been difficult. So we've tried to take advantage of those site opportunities. I don't look at, I mean, they are issues, it is a problem. But by doing the early site package and preparing the site so that when a general contractor comes, he has basically a flat site that he puts the school in, and then it will be very accessible for everybody at the different levels. But it's still basically a two-story structure. It's only two stories. Yeah.
I see Mark has his hand up, and then Jessica. So Mark.
Good evening. Thanks for the presentation. I really enjoyed what I saw. The site with the parking towards the dingle, I thought was a pretty good location for that. And that Lawrence School looked pretty cool with the play stuff up on top, but that's another.
Well, you know, it was a curb to curb site. They had no play yard. We had to put it on top.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So, you know, our educators spent a lot of time putting together an education plan.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had time to review that education plan and how your design might be able to accommodate what's in that education plan? I'm not sure really what was, you know, given to the teams tonight to be able to, you know, come back to us with what their recommendations were.
You know, I'm going to let Dennis talk a little bit about it, but first I would like to say that we will like to engage with you in depth on what our concept is and how that will fit your education plan. But we think it will. Dennis did do research on it. And Dennis, you want to speak to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. You had a very good plan put together that I looked over, and we tried to accommodate it in very broad terms, because not until we really sit down and talk to you, because it's really you folks that are going to design this building to suit your needs. But we tried to pick up on all the key things. And what really rang true in looking at it was the idea of having smaller learning communities within this larger school and creating communities that were at grade levels. But even though it's at grade levels, we thought by breaking each grade level into two neighborhoods within the community helped it even more. Now, the approach that we took in particular at this first pass was one that organizationally helped us sort of understand things by making the community area a shared one. But the beauty of the plan is that each of the neighborhoods could have their own sort of work area for team projects. And then also we found inspirational the idea of having an innovation hub which had that takes the whole idea of a library to the next step, which allows STEM or STEAM to happen by having both art and technology up there, but also a great opportunity. And this is just something, you know, part of, you know, I guess our interpretation and putting in, but also a great opportunity of having an ABL nearby, and that provides a great resource and opportunity for those students to participate in group activities where they can use their special talents to contribute.
Yeah, I did think that was a pretty neat aspect of having that technology hub all incorporated into that area.
Mark, I just want to comment to everyone that the original program was shared.
Okay,
with
thanks.
Everybody. And in fact, the data that I showed you that sort of did that comparison came from the designers. So they looked at the program and sort of represented what their most comparable example was by comparison. And that was to get a handle on, you know, how much redesign would be required if you wanted a one-to-one match with the program that you have.
Well, I think that's really it, meeting the program. There's certainly enough space there, so it's becoming creative to meet both the program of the site and as well as the program for the community and the school district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jessica was next, and then I see Aaron and Jamie both have questions.
Hi, thank you for your time being here and for your presentation. I have I have two questions, but they're very simple and basic. So when you speak about significant savings, and I know you spoke a little bit on it already, but is there significant loss in design or features based off of that significant savings? Like where or what was the cost cut for the savings?
You know, this is a question we're asked all the time. We have not cut quality at all. We showed some pictures of our schools, but all of our schools are very high quality. We design them simply. I did my own survey of about 5 contractors that follow our projects, and they all kind of said the same thing. You know, we had very good, tight documents, and they all kind of agreed that our buildings are easy to build. You know, they're not complicated, and we use, you know, simple materials that are attainable, and they're used to working with them. So if you make a building, it's like an erector set. I mean, if it's simple to build and the instructions are clear, then they will make money on it, and they tend to bid lower because they get through the projects with few problems and they get it done. Because it's not just our model schools that are low budget, all of our schools are under. And our model school, it just happened to be a little bit more under. And that's because, again, they're repetitive and very, you saw the plan, it's very efficient, you know, and that's really another key to design and controlling construction costs.
Thank you. And then, so my other comment, just to keep, I mean, you are the professionals, but as a parent and things, consideration to student safety. On that first floor plan, it's very appealing. I love the courtyards and everything, but I noticed from my view, the left-hand side, the right-hand side has a lot of office administration. It's very supervised. The left-hand side of the building, it's not. And then when you go to the second floor, the gym is there and things, but it's still like unsupervised in the sense that if there was a problem on the first floor, you can't even hear it from the stairwell to kind of stop it. We're in an area where we're just in an age where middle school is tough. So in the concept of student safety and designing it in such a sense that there is supervision in like no dead end hallways or, you know, just no blank spaces. Have you considered that? Like,
yes. No, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, I remember a very long time ago when I was interviewed for a high school, and and somebody said to me, well, make sure there's no freshman alley in the high school. I said, freshman alley? I said, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, in our school, the one we have now behind the auditorium, there's this place where the kids would kind of pick on the new freshmen that were coming in because it wasn't supervised. So I said, oh, okay. So I understand perfectly what you're talking about. One of the things here in the way our school is designed, if you were to put 2 people at each floor, they can supervise the entire floor. If you put them on the diagonal corners, they can look down 2 corridors and see everything that's going on in the corridor. So it only takes 2 people per floor, and that could be a teacher outside of her classroom or his classroom, looking down, and that's how you can get supervision, complete supervision of that. We could add small, we have a little bit extra space in there where we could add a supervisory office if you so wanted it on each floor. That might be helpful. But again, we designed this very simple school. There's no freshman alley. There's no place where really kids can hide because it's wide open. So the gym, although it's up 1 floor, it's at the 2nd level. And so that, again, there's could be plenty of supervision either through the staff or have a small office for each floor.
Right, and we've located offices and supervisory spaces and workrooms in such a way that there's, there are eyes on everywhere, whether it be at mid-corridor, at the ends of corridors and so forth. That's a very important thing. Students...
Yeah, those spaces are important because, we also do work in New Jersey and New York City, and, they have full-time security people on, and I think all school districts may have some of that at some point. So we have space.
I'm gonna sort of cut this. I think you gave a great answer, but I'm watching the clock, and I want to make sure we get to a couple of other questions.
Okay, sure.
Erin, Brunel, I think you're next.
Yes, thank you. My questions are kind of twofold. So, one, if there's projected cost savings in such a significant way, can we just budget that from the beginning, or do we still need to budget at the larger expense and then hope to save money? And then to that, the timeline of a September 25 is very intriguing. As you know, PEC is being closed this coming fall.
Yes.
So we're going to be operating in kind of like this middle of the planning, and have kids in different schools. So we would definitely be encouraged to be able to open a new school sooner. How firm do you think that timeline can be? Are you still experiencing delays with supply chain issues?
Well, that's a good question. The key to this is the early site package. That has to get out very, very quickly. And we begin design on the early site package as we begin the design for the school that gets submitted as a schematic design to MSBA for approval. So that's really the key, is getting that early site package done. And I showed earlier the Marlboro project. That was an extremely complex site, like yours is. This had wetlands. We had to go to conservation. I mean, there was all kinds of things that went on, and we were able to make that almost exact schedule. So I feel confident we can do it here and get you in that school September of 25.
This is Margaret interrupting again. Can you also clarify for the committee, are you assuming that this is a Chapter 149, also known as Design Bid Bill?
Absolutely.
So you're what you're saying is there would be an early site package that would be bid separately.
That's correct.
Build, and then the building package.
Margaret, we've been doing early site packages since the 90s. Tearing down mill buildings in Fall River.
I just asking for a clarification.
I know.
On watching the clock. Okay.
Okay.
So,
yes, thank you.
Erin, did that answer your question? Because I see 2 more hands up, and I want to make sure you get these questions in. Okay. And I see, so Camelia, do you have a question? Is Javier gonna?
Hello.
Hi, Camelia.
Can I talk in Spanish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Mi preocupación es que, ¿verdad? La segunda opción de la escuela que tiene como un parque en la azotea. es que la salud mental de los niños es a veces preocupante. Lo digo porque mi hija ha pasado por esa situación en la salud mental. Entonces, estamos hablando en el caso de suicidio, ¿verdad? A mí lo que me preocupa es que no sé qué tan seguro sea la parte donde está el parque, a la parte de arriba. Y también los niños con sus travesuras también pueden hacer como tirar cosas desde el techo para abajo. Y la otra pregunta es que si es accesible para niños en silla de ruedas. Esa es mi-
Hector?
Yeah, she has concern about having a yard or for the kids to play up on the rooftop, and her concerns about mental health and having people, and kids using that to commit suicide, or even kids that are being playful and they throw stuff from the roof. Is there any? She's concerned about our
Yeah,
way to mitigate all
again,
that.
yeah, I don't think that she needs to worry about that. Do you need to answer her in Spanish?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think that that's going to be a concern, as you know, because there will be no really place to jump from. We are going to be moving this into the landscape very gently, so there won't be any steep things there, and there's no access to it.
I think
Porque
that
Fran dice que no hay. Sorry, who's taking this?
Yeah, go ahead, Hector.
You're up, Hector.
Is it okay if I take it, or
Yes.
should
Yes, take
Javier?
it. Please take it.
What Frank is saying, Camila, is that la manera que estamos diseñando el edificio no permite que los niños puedan saltar desde la azotea, y de la manera que está hecho o diseñado es una manera bien suave, el cambio de ¿cómo que se dice? Del nivel entre la tierra y el edificio en sí.
Okay.
I think Camilla was responding to the Lawrence project where we had rooftop play area, but that doesn't really apply to this.
Lo que dice Dennis es el edificio que está mirando, que muestra un patio en el techo, es como un edificio, un proyecto más grande de lo que estamos haciendo acá o proponiendo aquí, y no estamos realmente buscando en hacer algo así en este momento.
Thank you, Hector and Camelia. So I see Whitney's hand up, and Erin needs to take her hand down if she's done. And we're at 5:48. So I'm going to take Whitney's question. If anybody else has a question, put them up, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay.
Hi, Frank. We met on site there during your visit. Appreciate your bringing the team together now, and it's nice to see you're all in Holyoke at this very moment.
Oh, great to be here.
We appreciate the fact that you bring 70 years worth of experience, 200 buildings, and the desire to do another one. So what we'd like to do is to actually come to an understanding in relationship of interpreting how your design comes forward. It's a very thoughtful approach. You've looked at the ed plan. A lot of time has gone into that. We appreciate your comments in regards to that. How does this actual procurement, if you will, in regards to what you're presenting now in relationship to the MSBA's Model Schools program, where does this implied cap that they have in regards to architectural services is 4.75%? I know there's a lot of work in regards to reorchestrating the mechanical functions. Certainly, you've already manipulated the building to fit on the site, and you have a clear understanding of that. But where are you going to fall in relationship to what the MSBA is saying and what we're actually going to experience that you can foresee now with your firm?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Whitney. I think the main thing is that there are parts of the savings come in the model school, so we can reuse some of our details, and we have to adapt them, of course, and make them yours. But there are things that aren't different, and that's, for example, the site. The site is a different site. It's not part of the model. So I mean, our landscape architect and civil engineers fees probably would be closer to what they normally would be. So they might be a little bit up from where you go. And also during the construction administration, that's just pretty much the same duration as you would have in a regular school. So those things don't seem to quite fit with the 4.75, but I think we can keep it down pretty low, a lot lower than the normal 10%, 10, 11% that it would be.
Margaret, if you could bear with me just one more minute. Frank, in regards to the last time that we attempted to do this with a different plan and an additional school, this was November of 2019.
Yeah.
What would you just, if you had to look at your experience over the course of this time to the current, as well as when our building season would actually occur, can you give me an idea of the type of escalation you may think we will be exposed to from that 11/19 date up until where we attempt to kick off from?
Yeah, prices have escalated. I mean, even our prices, and you can see it, and the ones at the lower level are higher than they were. For example, the Marlborough School was $339 a square foot. Okay, that was in 2000, I believe, 18 that was bid, or 2017. So it's gone up since then, and we're in the, I think you're going to expect it in the 400s for this particular school.
50%?
I don't know, is that 50%? No,
pretty close.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the average costs right now are 50% higher than they were. So I'm saying that our average cost would also be somewhat in that fact. But I'm seeing we've gone from about 350 to say 450. So that's not 50%. That's like maybe 30% or 25%.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. But I wish I had a crystal ball, but I believe we're peaking out on the inflation, and we've been through another inflationary period. And what happens, and I'm hopeful for this, is that when prices level off, or if there is a God forbid a recession, then contractors bid really tight, and the bid, the more competitive bidding you have, the lower your price is going to be.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to thank the Mount Vernon group. Well, good job, committee. I want to thank the Mount Vernon group. We are at our moment, and we're trying to give everybody a small break between each interview. Mm-hmm. So Frank and your team, do you want to just say anything in conclusion? I'll give you a minute to wrap up if you'd like before we let you go.
Well, again, we're just grateful to be here before you. We'd like to show that our model school can fit your needs, and it would be a great community resource as well, used by the community. Open it up directly from the gym to the field. That whole upper section could be used by the community without entering the rest of the school. So I think there's a lot of advantages to this that could be of great use and for you and the Holyoke community, and we'd love to work with you.
Great. Well, thank you very, very much. We'll let you go. Committee members, can we get you right back here at 6 o'clock sharp for the next one? And we will repeat with Flansburg, who are the next firm up. Okay.
All right, it's 6:01. I think we're ready to move on if everyone is here from the Flansburg group.
Yep. I have nobody in the waiting room.
All right, great.
Great. And they're really easy to count because they've all got white backgrounds. Nice job, guys.
1, 2, 3. There you go.
Okay, so we're going to get launched. It's 6:01. So this is the Flansburg Architects interview for the Peck School in Holyoke. I'm going to call by name the members of the committee who are here tonight and ask them just to identify themselves and say what their role is, and then we'll turn it over to you to do the same with your team and get launched. Okay? So is the mayor on and unmuted? Mr. Garcia, can you say hello? I see he's here. All right.
He might still be stepped away.
Okay. So Mayor Garcia is with us. Anthony?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. My name is Anthony Soto, and I am the superintendent here in Holyoke Public Schools, and looking forward to your presentation.
And Erin Brunel?
Hi, yes, thank you. My name is Erin Brunel. I have the honor of being the co-chair of the school building committee, and I'm also a member of the Holyoke School Committee at large.
And then Whitney Anderson and Ron Collmore, who are together.
Hello, Kent. We met on site there for the visit 3 or 4 weeks ago. Pleasure to see you again. Thank you for bringing the team together. Mr. Collmore is here with me, member of the school committee, Ward 4.
Thank you. Mark Lubold?
Good evening. I'm a member of the school building committee. I run a family manufacturing company here in Holyoke, and I coach football at the high school. Thanks for coming.
Jamie Morrow?
Hi, Jamie Morrow. I'm a member of the school building committee and the assistant chief procurement officer for the city of Holyoke.
And Jessica Perella?
Hi, I'm sorry I was having difficulty. I'm Jessica. I am a community member and a parent of 4 in the Holyoke Public School Systems, and I'm a student in UMass.
And Raina Lorenzi?
Thank you. I am a community member and a parent, and thank you for your time.
Deborah Vega?
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm Deborah Vega. I'm a member of this school building committee. I'm also a parent of a 3rd grader and a local small business owner.
Mr. Yost?
Yes, I'm a small business owner in Holyoke, grandparent of children in the public schools, and particularly interested in the financial aspects of the project, and look forward to your presentation.
Mayor Garcia, would you like to say hello?
Good evening, Joshua Garcia, mayor here in the city of Holyoke. Twins, 2 10-year-olds in the public school system, 5th grade.
Camelia Garcia?
Hi, good evening. I'm here. I'm the community partner, and I'm partnering for 2 child on the middle school.
Thank you. Kathy Ortiz is the last community member we're going to introduce.
I'm Kathy. I'm from the community. I work as a college advisor and one of the school in Springfield, but I'm here. I live in Holyoke. Also work for a humble house. Yeah.
And then I'm Margaret Wood with Answer Advisory, and my partner in crime, Bob Stevens, is here somewhere. But with that, we're going to turn it over to you to get launched for what will be a 50-minute interview. And if you could take about 20 minutes to make your presentation, we'll have Q&A.
Great. I'm Ken Kovac. I'm going to jump right in. And with me, I'm just going to quickly have my team introduce themselves. Bill, why don't you start off?
Hi, I'm Bill Beatrice, Flansburg Architects. Happy to be here, project manager.
Don't be shy. Just jump on in.
Hi, I'm Madeline. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madeline, go ahead.
Disculpa, Madeline. Hi, I'm Madeline Lee. I'm the project architect, and I'm with Flansburg.
George.
Hi, I'm George Cruz. I'm the Executive Vice President with Flansburg Architects, and I'm responsible for quality control and quality assurance.
Great. David?
I'm David Pereira, Principal at GGD, and I'll be representing the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering side of things.
Perfect. Bill? Oh, you're muted. We'll work on Bill. So
Bill Brown, landscape architect. Moving right along.
The one and only.
The one and only. The famous Bill Brown.
I'm going to share my screen and start the show.
Okay, thank you.
Moment.
While Ken's pulling up his show, I hope everybody knows that if you're in speaker view, you can actually adjust the screen so you get the speaker and you can sort of figure out how big you want the speaker to be and how big you want the presentation to be. So that can be helpful if you want to see it that way. But he has to get the presentation up first.
moment. I gotta open up a setting to allow this. I'm getting a message for the
Can you hear me?
Security and privacy.
Do you want me to see if I can open it up, Ken?
Yeah, Bill, why don't you give it a shot?
Bien.
Sorry about the delay.
It's okay.
There we go.
Bien, ahí vamos. Interpreter needs to make a clarification. Can anybody hear me?
All right, great.
Yes,
Thank you.
we can.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. I apologize before continuing. I'm trying to go into the Spanish channel and to be assigned into the Spanish channel. If I'm assigned to this channel, I won't be able to interpret as my audio will interrupt the presentation.
Jackie, can you help us with that?
I am trying, but I don't have the access to assign interpretation. And I'm wondering if Anthony does. I think Aaron made me co-host, but not host. And as the co-host, I cannot do that.
Javier, I'm wondering if you could call Camelia, if you and the two of you were both muted, if you could call Camelia and interpret for her through your phone so that you can see the presentation, but be able to interpret for her. Is that possible? If you have the phone and the laptop.
If you were to give me through a secure way, and if it's okay to communicate with the person that's the LEP, limited English proficiency individual, I would definitely be able to make the call and mute this channel and then continue with the audio as it is through a phone call. But that is only if you guys deem necessary and appropriate.
Anthony, can you give us some direction on that?
I'm okay with it. I think we got to ask her if she's okay with providing her phone number, right? Like, is that the question?
Yes.
Can we get her
Yeah.
phone number to him? I don't have a problem with that. That would be on her. So we're talking Camelia, right?
Yes, for Camelia.
Can she hear us now? Camelia, ¿tú me escuchas?
Yeah, I hear you.
A ver si se puede comunicar con el interpretador, si le manda tu teléfono, él te puede llamar y porque estamos teniendo problemas aquí con el Zoom. So,
¿Dónde envío el número de teléfono?
If you guys can send a text message through the administrator itself, through the chat only to myself, I would definitely write it down here and give her a call. Si podrían enviar al administrador. Hola, Camila, mi nombre es
Jackie, are you able to do that?
¿Cómo se llama el intérprete?
Se llama, él está hablando ahora mismo, Les Sepulvera. So, si tú le mandas el número tuyo directamente en el chat.
Ok, ya encontré.
Okay.
She can chat to me.
She found you, Les, and she's going to directly chat you her number.
Good.
Perfect. All right.
Thanks, everyone, for figuring that out.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your patience. We will now start the clock.
Sorry, my Spanglish isn't that good.
Okay. Back to you.
Great. Thank you. You met the team. Bill, next slide. As to the rest of the consultant team, many of these consultants have worked on MSBA projects. We're very familiar what's expected of all of us. Next slide. A little bit about Flansburg. We're all about education. We're in the public, independent, and international markets. Next slide. And within the public, recently we have we're working in Ashland, Tewksbury, obviously Norfolk, Bourne, middle high schools, Holbrook, West Bridgewater, Sutton, McCall, and Winchester, and then with high schools, Bartlett High and Webster is a renovation project, Nauset Regional, Malden, Lawrence, and Auburn. So just a little bit of background of what we've done over the years. So we understand working with many municipalities across the Commonwealth. With your project, we understand what's important, key considerations. We'll be evaluating the site. I was kind of blown away when I went through a site walkthrough and saw the PEC site, dropping about 60 feet across it and the older building. So it's time to be replaced. And then building evaluation, we're just going to show you, what our model schools can do, what they have, and how it might meet your program and your needs. And then building systems. The schools you're going to see today are great schools. They're flexible. They're originally designed for those communities. But the Norfolk school is about 10 years old, and the West Bridgewater school is about 7 years old. And codes have changed, things have changed. So there are some things that need to be addressed, especially when it comes to the mechanical system. And then we'll go into some conceptual costs and schedules. Next slide. So I'm going to kick it over to Bill Brown, who's going to just walk us through some initial observations with the PEC site itself. Bill? Is Bill not quite got there with the audio yet?
I saw him earlier.
Well, I'm just going to start myself. And if Bill jumps in, we'll get there.
Sounds good.
So like I said, we went through a walkthrough recently, and it's my first time looking at this site. And I actually felt it was quite beautiful. You come out of a residential neighborhood, the scale's great. You feel very kind of embraced by the woodlands. But then there's this older school that needs to be replaced. It served the community well for many years, but it's a difficult site. And the model schools that you're looking at were both designed on flat sites. And I just want to express that. So there are some challenges with how do you adapt, both the schools you're going to see with what you have. But I think it's an extremely tight site that you have. But the fact that you have been proactive, you looking at where students might be able to move, and getting the students out of the school early could be a great benefit to this construction project in order to just mobilize and take that building down and have a clean site when a contractor arrives. So we're just kind of looking at a steep drop off kind of north to south is the main one, and then kind of addressing how you approach it. Limited parking, I believe everybody kind of realizes that, and then there's the potential to connect up with the high school on the other side. And we did we're privileged to look at the previous architect's work with a potential bus drop off and loop that connected over there. And so I think that would be a great idea to take advantage of. Next slide. So we'll start off with the Freeman Kennedy. This is in Norfolk. And this opened up, again, it's an older school, opened up in 2012, but has a lot of great benefits. It's an elementary school for 585 students. It's slightly under 100,000 square feet. And now I think the challenge for you is there's no middle school model with the MSBA. There's elementary schools, and we have a middle senior high school model that we're going to show you. And so I think that's going to be part of the challenge here is understanding like how your school can kind of adapt to one of these. But we see great opportunities with both. Next slide. A little bit of ambiance here. Again, this was originally designed for...
I saw Bill Brown pop up there. Bill, do you want to add something? And he's gone.
We'll keep going. We'll shine through pretty soon. So this is the Freeman Centennial. We're very proud of this school. It responded to their need for the students, also their character, the regional character, which we'd love to bring to Holyoke. And I think we could adapt this building to meet your needs. You can see it's kind of, there was this birch tree ambiance and this stone material here. And then it was all about having the students have a connection to nature. Next slide. And then community spaces of the gym and the cafeteria. And what's unique about this plan is both of these spaces can be accessed directly without going inside the school. Next slide.
So can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you.
Oh, I'm very sorry for some technical difficulties. I'm on my iPhone now. So as Ken said, we've evaluated 2 different school buildings, and there is 50 feet of grade change roughly from north or south to north. And as part of studying this building, we have looked at separating bus drop-off from parent drop-off. So the parent drop-off would be at the circle to the south of the building. We do have parking with access into the front of the building as well through a really nice courtyard that's just south of or in between 3 buildings. There's an opportunity for outdoor learning areas in that space. It's quite large, and it would be a very nice entrance into the building and provide some outdoor teaching. To the left of the building, we have shown a small field, turf field, with the potential for basketball courts or pickleball in that location. And as we go to the right, there is a dark line, which is the roadway and the bus drop-off. Residences are to the right with trees screening that area. And then the curved path that you see to the north of the building is where service would access, or excuse me, fire would access. And service is off the where the bus access roadway is. There's an opportunity for a courtyard between the 2 wings as they splay out. There's beautiful views to the north. And we think that we can integrate stormwater management into the southern portion of the site and the area where the bus loop or the parent drop-off loop is. And there's also opportunities for stormwater management to the north. And we think that with some careful grading, we can make that accessible for the students as well.
Great. Thank you. Next slide. I think the big change here is we need to adapt this building to your site, and we rotated the cafeteria and the gym wings. This is actually in the original kind of proposal for the model school that this could happen. And we also need to add 10,000 square feet to the building. And we're not doing this with an addition because we're kind of pinched on site itself. So we're infilling areas that were previously open to the second floor. There were 2 stories, second floor spaces. So we've looked at trying to get this up to the square footage at approximately 106,000 square feet and fitting to the site. And you can just see with these simple diagrams where we're focusing on. But we feel confident that we're able to, adapt to your site as Bill just walked us through. But programmatically, we need to add some square footage. Next slide. And then here's just a look at the first floor on the left-hand side and the second floor on the right-hand side. As you see, I think a benefit to the Norfolk project is you can lock off the gym and have it as you can separate the gym, you can separate the caf, you can separate the main building without going into the different components. That's what's kind of interesting about it. But when one enters the school and you get into the area that we have kind of designated as media center or design lab, you get these great views out with these splayed out academic wings. And here, because it's an elementary school that's being converted, we need to focus on how we're doing that. We've built in science labs that were not part of the original program. Your special education spaces, we want to be very sensitive to this. And that's why we're proposing to bring David Stephen, our educational programmer, early on into this program. He worked on these projects, and we'll look at what you've created to date and how that can be adapted to these plans. But with the Norfolk project, it's a 2-story building. It's first floor is all on one level, but there will be some kind of major modifications with the gym and the cafeteria rotated. Next slide. Now just shifting to West Bridgewater. This opened in 2015, so not as far back as the Norfolk project, and it's a larger school, but I'm going to walk you through how this will match your square footage with kind of minimal redesign. Next slide. Just some ambiance photos of West Bridgewater. As you can see, it has a little bit more of a collegiate feel than the elementary. And so that's kind of what's unique, going from the elementary to this middle senior high school. Next slide. And
So this,
just Bill, before you kind of jump in, so what I want to point out here is just the big picture is, it's reduced almost by 30,000 square feet, focused on the high school program being removed. So it can be adapted to the site by simply not building the auditorium and the larger gymnasium. I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next couple slides, but Bill, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Well, the circulation for this scheme for parent drop-off and bus drop-off is the same. The one difference is that the loading dock is moved to the left side of the building towards the north. We have access into the main entrance from the parent drop-off, and also access from the parking lot. There is a small field that's shown on the left-hand side, and there's a sizable courtyard that we need to talk with you about how that should be programmed if we end up working on the project. We've done the same thing with stormwater management in terms of where we would try to capitalize on the existing site features, and we think that we can do that. And one thing that you should know is that both of these schemes, you can see the dashed lines sort of running throughout. We did grading plans for both of the schemes to test accessibility, ADA issues, to set the finished floor of the building. And the grading that you see here actually does work, and we're able to achieve a site plan for both of the different building schemes.
Great, thanks. Next slide. So here, this is where I want to explain how we get from 142 down to 106. So looking on the right side, so that block that you see, the red rectangle, that's an entire performing arts center. That's not part of your program. So we simply just take that off. As well as the gymnasium is much larger with the associated locker rooms and fitness than what you have. So essentially everything you see on that left-hand diagram where the rectangle is just removed. And 80%, the academic, the administration, the cafeteria with West Bridgewater remains intact. And when we tested this, that's what was kind of cool about this is we looked at your program, we kind of placed it in, and it was kind of matching up, except when we looked at those large community spaces. So the solution was to fit the site. We took the academic wing and we shifted it about 16 feet over to the left, just to kind of squeeze it up a little bit. And then essentially lopped off the Performing Arts Center, and we put the back of house spaces, such as the custodial, mechanical, and kitchen underneath the gym. This is common. This is what we've done in our Bourne Elementary, our Holbrook project, and our Tewksbury Elementary School. We put the back of house spaces underneath the gymnasium, and that's what we did here. What's the benefit is we've reduced your building footprint. So the diagram on the right is the first floor of what we're proposing here. And I think what's great is the remainder of the spaces, academic wings remain intact. Next slide. A lot of detail here. But when you look at it on the left-hand side, you see how we've kind of embedded into the slope. We've taken advantage of that topography. We have the back house spaces that are on the first floor. And then the colorized areas that you see at the cafeteria have this great view across the central green. That's the courtyard with access to the kitchen and the loading dock. And so again, these back out spaces that don't necessarily need natural light are embedded into the hillside. We take advantage of that topography. And then as we shift to the right-hand side, we have that gymnasium that's now accessed from the second level. There's also an opportunity here if you wanted a separate community entrance that could be achieved by having the gymnasium at the second level and controlled. And then as we kind of walk around the academic wings, they remain intact from the West Bridgewater model. There are some areas on the northern wing that we did modify because, again, this is a high school. It had more science labs. And so that's where we've incorporated kind of the band and the music performance aspect. But essentially everything except those community functions of the gym and the gym and the auditorium remain. And we've kind of done the best within the limited time to come to you for the interview to match what you had in your original design as far as adjacencies and access to the outdoors and synergy between different spaces. Next slide. And then here's just a look at one of those academic neighborhoods that has really served the community of West Bridgewater well for many years. And here the focus is we have this team commons in the center of the academic wing with teacher support, special education spaces, and general academic, and they all come together kind of in a great synergy. And this repeats about 4 times within the plan. And so each of these wings has really been had a lot of positive attributes and a lot of success and feedback from the students over the years. Next slide. Now we're going to kind of quickly wrap this up with the HVA selection process and sustainability, and I'll open it up to David from GGD.
Thanks, Ken. So I wanted to discuss from an MVP standpoint what it would mean to take a 2014 vintage design and apply it to some of the current projects that will be, all electric. This slide focuses on mechanical, however, I just wanted to briefly cover some of the electrical design impacts. So from an electrical standpoint, we would expect the service size to be increased about 20% from a building with gas, and the generator, if freeze protection is a requirement, would roughly double in size. Lighting controls would need to meet the latest energy code requirements, which means lower light power density, new vacancy sensing requirements, and switched receptacles in certain locations. And with the improved technology in LEDs and the use of lighting modeling software, we're confident in meeting or exceeding these LPD requirements. So I wanted to show an example here of West Bridgewater, which was a 2014 design and utilized displacement ventilation, gas-fired RTUs with DX cooling, induction units in the administration areas, and perimeter hot water radiant panels. So if we were to adapt the same system, of course, we would still need to perform a life cycle analysis and go through the selection process, which I'll discuss in the next slide. But this is how it would compare a big picture. The distribution system would remain mostly the same, with addition of VAVs for each space for better temperature control and energy efficiency. The rooftop units would need to be changed to air source heat pump type, or you could use air source or to hydronic heat pump system as a central plant. Induction units could be replaced with VRF units, or induction could be paired with a hydronic central plant, same with the radiant panels. They could be electric or hydronic and paired with the hydronic central plant as well. So the distribution system can be similar, but as you can see, there are major differences in the system equipment, which is why we still need to go through our system selection process. So explaining the pros and cons of each system being studied and is extremely critical. And we go through each system, and our goal is also to ensure that the facilities department is comfortable with the required maintenance and operation of these systems. As of July 2023, the 10th edition of the code will be adopted, which puts us in the IECC 2021 code.
Do they need to go out?
Which is interesting. This introduces new energy requirements such as thermal energy demand intensity, TEDI limits, new energy recovery requirements, new air infiltration requirements, and new thermal bridging requirements. These all help lower cooling and heating loads, in turn, resulting in smaller mechanical equipment. And we will utilize a life cycle cost analysis and energy modeling to study the first operating maintenance costs of different system options that will include air source, water source, variable refrigerant flow, and geothermal heat pump systems. We will look at metrics such as TEDI, EUI, maintenance, and replacement costs. However, it's always important to ensure that the selected system maintains a high indoor air quality, thermal comfort, and ease of use. So I'll turn that over back to Flansburg.
Great, thank you. And of course, there's other parts of sustainability with stormwater management, and as Dave talked about, energy efficiency, water conservation, and material selection. So we're going to explore all that with you. Next slide. And just an example in Bourne here, or in Ashland, we're looking at a net zero project here where we're using geothermal and photovoltaics and really kind of honing into what they want with the low EUI. And we can take what we learned from there to your project. Next slide. So now
Ken, I just want to interject and say, I didn't start the timer until we got the translation thing figured out, but you were almost at the end of your time. So
yep, I'm 30 seconds.
I'm not going to cut you off, but go for it.
30 seconds. We'll just look at some quick costs, and I think if everybody looked at these in their packets. So the first slide you see is based on design bid build. That's chapter 149. So we looked at West Bridgewater and bringing it up to today's standards, and not doing super insulated, and going beyond, kind of as Dave was talking to, but we're at $70.4 million for construction cost only with a conventional design bid build. And then the Norfolk is tracking about $2 million over that. It's a more complicated building, sloped roofs, and a lot of wood that's used for the structure. So you're looking at a $2 million premium just between the two. And then we went one more step and looked at construction manager at risk. Next slide. What this does is the CM, the contractor, comes in as your partner and our kind of teammate early on in the process. And there's about a $2 million premium with this. And West Bridgewater comes in at 72.4, and then Norfolk comes in at 74.4. Now, these are conceptual estimates based on what we've seen within your site and what we know with these existing buildings, and the same cost estimator who did these original designs did these. Next slide. Schedule, real quick. What we're looking at here, this is in your packet. So if we kick this off, we're using 2023 to have a consolidated schematic design with confirmation, which is going to be about 6 months. We'll go into the facilities assessment subcommittee and then MSBA board vote. Now, this is just my take. I haven't talked to anybody else here about this, and a fall vote. Now, this could certainly get extended, little breathing room, but it's a model school. We've been through this. We probably could expedite this project, but we have a lot of verification we need to do. The big picture here is if you go CMR, you probably can get everybody in 6 months earlier than the design bid build. Next slide. And then just like a look ahead, what we'd say for the next 6 months is where we get into a lot of activity with the school is we'll verify existing conditions. We'll do that educational visioning with David Stephen, visioning kickoff, and then start bringing in the community for some touch bases every other month as we're refining this plan. And then again, we need to focus on the DESE submittal for special education as part of this schematic design package. And so there'll be a lot of focus on that just to make sure we get it right, because we know how important that is. And then wrapping everything up at the end of May into June. And that concludes our presentation. We open it up for any questions you may have.
That's great, Kent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation. I'm trying to see hands. Let me change my view here. Oh, lots of hands.
Yep, great.
All right. I'm going to say Dave Yost gets the first question.
All right, thank you. The slide wasn't up fast enough for me to do the math. We've got a copy of the conceptual budget for the section 149A, but do you have the cost per square foot of 149? No, it's just.
I don't think we had the cost per square foot mapped out. So we can leave that up. Yep. Sorry that we went fast at the end.
At my urging.
About 665 roughly, Dave, per square foot. I think if you do take a quick look at the math.
That's the regular
565, yeah.
149, because I've got we had the 149A in our handout.
What's on the screen now is the 149A.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to the design bid build? Yep, there you go.
So Dave, what is your question?
No. So that was my
You just want to see the numbers again.
Yeah, and I think what's it's always a conversation. I think you definitely have a difficult site. You're surrounded by residential neighborhoods. There's a big advantage, even if you get the students out of that building, which you'd have to do to really make this project work. There is an advantage to having CM early on because you have open conversations. We're able to vet some stuff out and you secure some of the bidding along way instead of waiting for the documents to be kind of baked and send it out to a bunch of contractors. So there is some value to that, especially on a complex site like this.
So I see that Mark Lubold has his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to, you had a chance to look at Holyoke's, educational programming, and you confidently feel that either of the designs would be able to allow our education team to efficiently and effectively, complete their plan. And
Well, I would say, looking at it, I would say West Bridgewater, and I've worked on both personally. I would say West Bridgewater probably would adapt and give you a little more flexibility than the Norfolk project.
Okay.
I think the Norfolk project is a great project. I'm proud of it. I think the West Bridgewater would suit your needs better when I compare the two together. And
Thanks.
being on the site, I think it's a little bit more easy as well. And you can see it has a $2 million less price tag.
I did notice that.
And Kent, is what's driving the lower cost the smaller footprint? Where do you think that different?
So there is a reduction in the footprint, but Norfolk is more complex kind of structurally. It's all glue laminated beams. That was the original design, going back 12 years ago, except the gymnasium, the cafeteria. So it's all glue lam wood beams. And there's a lot of slope roofs and a lot of standing seam metal roofs. So there's a lot of material that's material that, if you opted for Norfolk, I'm not telling you it's not to go there, but there's some material savings you could have there, but it's constructed and it's more complex than West Bridgewater. But it is a smaller building footprint, which helps.
Okay. So I'm looking for other hands. And I am not seeing any other hands.
Mine is up. I don't know if you can see mine.
I apologize. Go for it.
That's okay. I was just looking at some of the Q&A that we had written out ahead of time. And so I was looking at one area in particular. So in regards to the MSBA caps on design and construction, how do you see this project as responding to those caps to produce the highest value project? I know you're showing us two different potential design models. As you're aware, we don't have much money to just, spend at our whim here. So getting the project, the least amount expense as possible is key to us. And so staying within the caps will be crucial to the project. So how do you guys see the project responding in that way?
So I think MSB has caps. Most of the caps will not satisfy building a building. That's known. But we want to try to minimize your cost. Each town and city, have different needs and kind of different thresholds of what they can afford and what they can pass to the public. So that's one of the reasons why I think you get a benefit here. You're seeing two model schools that were accepted. Both are great schools. The West Bridgewater is a more straightforward design than the Norfolk design, and I think it's would probably meet your needs better. So that kind of brings your cost down. And then educationally, because it has a variety of different spaces and the way the circulation works, I think it could adapt to the models within your neighborhoods that you kind of were establishing on 4 stories. But if you're looking at, how do we maintain the caps of the MSBA, I would say go with the lower priced option right now that we know is more manageable, which is a straightforward West Bridgewater model.
And then second to that, as we all know, inflation and construction prices keep going up. If you were to give us a price today, do you think that would be, you think we'd come in at budget, under budget? Do you think realistically we need to build in, 20% buffer? Like, where do you see the expenses today versus in 3 years when the school's complete?
We have a very good cost estimator who looked at this, and we kind of gave them when we thought we would open it up, and they did the best they could do. But I'll be honest with you, things are out of control right now. We're hoping things kind of settle down. So we did the best we could do with our estimator and what they're seeing. And that's what you see right now in that estimate, that conceptual estimate. Because I'm not going to come to you and lowball something. That's the last thing I want to do right now.
All right. Thank you for the answers.
I see Jessica's hand, and then I see the Whitney and Ron team. So Jessica.
Hi, thank you for your presentation and for your time being here. If you could repeat yourself, I'm sorry. You said about cutting down the square footage space by removing like the performing arts and the gym and the lockers and the fitness. Which school was that? Could you?
I'll clarify. Yeah, let me I'll clarify that. Absolutely. So the West Bridgewater model, it was designed for a high school. It's a middle high school. And on the MSBA space template, that is a standard state template for high schools, it has a true performing arts theater that middle schools don't have with the state. And so they provide performance space by using the cafeteria and a stage and support space, but it doesn't have
at a middle school level.
At a middle school level, at a middle school level. So even the design that you previously were looking at doesn't have a performing arts center, an auditorium. It has components to support your performing arts program, but that's just a state standard. And then on the gymnasium side, the gymnasium is also capped with square footage. A high school gym is much larger than a middle school gym.
Yes.
So that's what I was referring to. West Bridgewater was a combination high school, junior high, and that's why it benefited and had those high school components. But this project wouldn't. It would reflect similar to the, it's the same program that you were looking at with your previous project.
Okay. Would
So
there
it's
still
not
be?
it's not taking anything away from what you.
Okay, it's just minimizing.
It's just a middle school that is the state standard.
Yeah,
But also this reflects Holyoke because you've already gone through that state template and modified it to be reflect your needs, and that's what we base this on.
Yeah, Jessica, the MSBA has a set of standards for how large, well, minimum to maximum space for each type of school. So what Kent is reflecting, I think, very well is that if you're going to take a middle high school, you have to scale some things down. You have to add some things, right? But that's the adjustment he's making is what do you have to do to get from that model to this model within the MSBA standards.
Right. So just to clarify, in the middle school sense that we're trying to create here, like, I mean, I know there's no fitness, but like, are there still lockers in the gymnasium? Is there still a space for performances? Just to clarify.
Yeah, there's a stage, and then you utilize the cafeteria as kind of your sitting area, and then within that program, for the physical education part, there is in your program, and I believe with the state's template, there is a fitness room as well.
Okay.
It's just not as robust as a high school.
I understand. I just wasn't clear if it was like a gymnasium but no locker space, or if it was like minimal locker space and minimal gym space. I just needed clarification. Thank you.
You may want to go to the plan and you can show them where they are.
Well, I want to keep an eye on the time. So let's see if we have time for that. I want to go to Whitney. And then Jamie, did you have a question, or was that? You're muted.
Yeah, I was going to get back to the CM at risk and the design bid build, but we'll see if we have time because
let's take
let's go to Whitney.
Let's go Whitney and Ron and then come back to you. Okay.
Thanks, Kent. In regards to your initial slide where you had the current work that you're involved with, either from new construction or ad rental, where are you finding your square footages are coming in at for your estimated costs?
For recent projects?
Yeah, you had an initial slide there with a variety of different projects.
Yep.
That I don't know if it spanned. It was in 3 different columns of orientation. Yep. Oh, maybe it was middle and high school and elementary, I think, were the divisions.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get your pulse on where the numbers are at.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you. So we have 2 projects. One's just gone out to bid, and I got George Cruz on the line who's working with me. One's a large high school on the Outer Cape. And that's currently being bid, and that's coming over like everything else. That's coming over about 20%. We're trying to come up with some options there with that. And then we have one in Bartlett in Mass, which is in Webster, Mass. And that's coming in a little bit over as well. So we're trying to control it through value engineering. The projects that are under construction that kind of beat all the inflation is Tewksbury in Ashland, which are both CM jobs. And so those are tracking where we were with the schematic design estimates. So those are on par. But my other 2 projects unfortunately hit in the fall and the summer of this year, and there are like many projects across the Commonwealth. So all manageable, but we're getting there just like everybody else.
Well, I don't see things going down at all. So where's 20 over your base number? What are you at now per square foot?
So with the George, if you want to jump in with Nauset, so I think Nauset was a renovation at around 470. So we're probably up around 525.
Yeah, so we're running about
20%.
Anywhere between 15 and 20%, depending on what trade you're talking about. So the biggest trade increases have been mechanical, electrical, windows. Those are the big trades that are coming in high.
Still in the meeting.
Sure. How about the so new construction? I mean, I appreciate ad rental. New construction is similar, or we just looked at an estimate from you that was $650 to $675 a square foot. So I don't know if the if what we were just previously talking about really kind of defines the market where we're at now. Are we in the 600s? Are we approaching 700? Are we over 700? What are we going to anticipate?
We're between 600 and 700. We're guesstimating at this point of 8% increase every year for inflation on the construction side.
Sure.
Now, if we go into recession, certainly that would help and reduce some of that cost, but we don't have a crystal ball to know when that might happen. But right now, I believe we're carrying about 8%.
George, I got a lot of respect for you. I saw you in a presentation down on Broad Street at the MSBA, so I appreciate your the firm. How can you relate to us in regards to the MSBA's model school initiative? And I know that, it's a moment in time. They also lock you in without an escalator, subject to negotiation in regards to fee structures. Where do you guys think, with all the, the massaging we're going to have to do here to get things to our beautiful wooded site, where do you see yourself coming in at, as far as, again, the amount of work that you're going to need to do in order to present something and be realistic to your own business model?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, this is, like I said, when I opened up, these are two schools built on flat sites. I think the site is the big killer here.
Yeah.
And then, there's no middle school model. So we do need to adjust it. We're coming to you, and I would say professionally, I've worked on both projects, designed on both projects, managed on both projects. West Bridgewater is a better candidate. But there is some major design, but that site, again, is where the money is. So yes, we're capped, with the MSBA, but we would probably negotiate for some of that site costs and some of the mechanical designs, and not looking at coming at this as a brand new project. We understand why you're here and the value that you get from it. But yeah, there's some cost to cover.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate your designs.
Ken and George, can I sort of add on? So one of the things I'm really interested in, I think it's really hard to get a handle on, so I will not be offended if you pass on this, but it's the question of how much redesign is required to meet the new energy code. So I think it was David actually gave a great presentation about the bits and pieces, but I keep trying to understand it in terms of how much time and fee is required to do that. And have you thought about that at all? Can you reflect on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily on the fee component right now, but West Bridgewater, I'm going to say, was kind of in the next generation. We were kind of thinking ahead. After the Norfolk project, we stopped using polystyrene inside the walls. We started using mineral wool as our insulation. So West Bridgewater actually is kind of, I would say, our next generation. It's not, the envelope's not as robust as what we're doing right now. So West Bridgewater can adapt to that. But technically speaking, yeah, we probably would increase the envelope of West Bridgewater a bit. We would have to raise our parapets a bit because we're going to add more roof insulation. We'd end up probably looking at new window systems that meet the U value that we need. And, kind of working with GGD and looking at, energy analysis, we can hone that in. Norfolk's the bigger challenge. I mean, we're looking at 2.5 inches of insulation, and that cavity would probably have to expand by 2 inches. So there's probably some significant designs within that envelope with the Norfolk project.
Great. That's super helpful. All right. So Jamie, let's take your question. Okay.
Sorry, I was muted still. For Bridgewater and Norfolk, were those both CM at risk projects, or were they traditional design bid build?
Traditional design bid build.
Okay. Did you see a huge problem with the change orders with is that why you were kind of recommending the CM at risk is a more quicker money saving, time saving? No.
Nope. It 100% with the site. Those were open, flat sites with existing buildings far away. There's no disruption to students, the existing school. Contractors had smooth access into the site that was uninterrupted, the day-to-day activity of the school. This is just super complex residential neighborhood. A lot of logistics that are going on with your site. I think there's value for a CM, but again, that's a bigger conversation.
Absolutely. And just so the committee knows, real quick, a CM at risk, we're talking about procurement methods, and a CM at risk would be, we get a project manager that will also be the construction manager versus a design bid build cannot move forward construction wise until all of the plans are finalized. So hence the more time constraints and things like that. So we're talking a different language here. I'm just trying to open it up so the other committee.
We're not advocating one way or another. We just saw an opportunity to give you an option, and it's complex site, so we thought we'd throw it out there.
Absolutely. And so I'm procurement, so that's my language. So, but I'm just trying to, make it relatable to the whole committee as well. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, welcome.
So I do not see any hands up. Can everybody just check me on that? Because if that is the case, I want to give Kent and his team a minute to wrap up and say thank you.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, I'm just actually privileged to come here and present to you because Flansburg worked a long time on these projects and, delivering for different communities, and everyone's happy. And so we're if they can have another life and we can adapt it to what you need and help you out, we're happy to do it. So I just want to thank everybody for your time. I know these are not easy decisions. You guys have been through a lot, kind of evaluating options along the, across the years. And so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. So it's 6:55. We're going to take a 5-minute break. All right. Come back for the last interview. Flansburg team, thank you very much. That was a terrific presentation.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we've hit 7.
It is.
So I think we're going to get launched again. Jones Whitsett team, we're going to go in and introduce ourselves, and then we'll turn it over to you. So I'm going to start with the big guy, Mayor Garcia. Can you introduce yourself?
Hey, it's Josh Garcia, mayor here. Good evening. 2 children in the public school system, both 5 years old, and looking forward to navigate what we need to do here to build our middle school.
Thank you. And Anthony Soto, please.
I don't think your kids are 5 years old, Josh. I think they're in 5th grade. I'm Anthony Soto.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, it's a little late.
It's late.
Yeah. Anthony Soto, I'm the superintendent here, proud graduate of Holyoke Public Schools, and I actually attended the PEC building, which is the site that we're talking about. So looking forward to the presentation.
All right, so Erin Brunel.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Holyoke. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Erin Brunel. I'm honored to be the co-chair of the school building committee, and I've been serving on the Holyoke School Committee for 9 years now. Also have 2 kids in the system. So yeah, I look forward to getting us a new building.
And now Whitney Anderson and Ron Collmore, who are together.
Mr. Collmore?
Yes, Mr. Collmore speaking. Thank you for coming this evening, and I appreciate everything you're trying to do to make Holyoke a better place for our children.
It's nice to see you, Mr. Cullimore.
Hello, Jones Whitsett team. Proud parent of 2 graduates of Holyoke High School, and looking forward to tonight's presentation. And we thank you for your continued interest.
Mr. Lubold.
Hello, everyone. Volunteer on the school building committee, run a family manufacturing company here in Holyoke, proud graduate of Peck School in the 90s. So I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation. Welcome.
And Jamie Morrow, please.
Hi, I'm Jamie Morrow. I'm the Assistant Chief Procurement Officer for the City of Holyoke.
And Jessica Perella.
Hi, my name is Jessica. Thank you all for your time being here this evening and your continued interest in Holyoke. I'm a parent of 4 children in the public schools. They're elementary. One's actually going to be middle school next year. And I am a student myself, and I am an active community member here in Holyoke. Thank you.
And Raina Lorenzo.
I am Raina. I'm a community member, and I have 2 children in the public school system, elementary age. Thank you for being here.
Deborah Vega.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see you again. My name is Deborah Vega, and I am a member of this building committee. I'm a small business owner, and I am a parent of a 3rd grader who will definitely be entering middle school around the time this building is built. So thank you for being here.
And David Yost.
Yes, I'm a small business owner here in Holyoke. I'm a parent of 2 daughters who graduate from the public schools, grandchildren in the schools now, soon to be in middle school, and particularly interested in the financial aspects of the project, and look forward to your presentation.
And Jackie Glasheen.
Hi, I'm Jackie Glasheen. I am the Executive Director of School Leadership. I supervise 10 of our 14 schools, also a community member, and also have a senior at Holyoke High.
And Camelia Garcia.
Hi, my name is Camelia. I'm part for the commitment, and I'm parent for 2 children of the middle school, the Peck Middle School. And thank you for being here.
And then we've got almost at the end, Kathy Ortiz.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being with us tonight to do the presentation. I'm an active community member from the community. I also work for Gear Up in one of the schools in Springfield, but really involved in the community in Holyoke, and also her services in Homework House.
All right, and Yisaka Axelrod?
Isaka.
Isaka, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I am a faculty member at UMass Amherst and in the College of Ed, and I live in Holyoke, and I have 3 children in the Holyoke Public Schools.
Okay, we're almost there. So Mickey Buell, would you like to say hello?
Sure, I'm Mickey Buell. I'm the Chief Finance Officer for the district now.
Ah.
Okay. And Wendy?
Hi, Wendy Weiss. I'm a small business owner and a community member, and I'm not officially a committee member. I'm a community working group member.
And also behind the scenes is Erin Linville, who's been running the show. So Erin, you want to say hello?
Hi, I'm Chief of Strategy and Turnaround, and I'm just support staff working on the Zoom.
And Peter Tallman, who's also on the committee, is not here tonight. So we're going to turn it. So I'm Margaret Wood, Owner's Project Manager with Answer Advisory. I have my partner in crime, Bob Stevens, here tonight. But at this point, we'll turn it over to the Jones Whitsett team to introduce themselves and present.
Great. let's be sure everyone can see that first. Can you all see everything there?
Great, looks good.
Yes.
I might just recommend if people can to set their settings to side by side, either speaker or gallery. If you want to see just the speaker or the whole gallery, we found that with the standard view, it cuts off the bottom of some of the slides. So, my name is Kristian Whitsett with Jones Whitsett Architects, and on behalf of our entire team, I want to thank you for this opportunity to publicly present our design for the new Peck Middle School. As many of you know, we worked with the previous school building committee for over a year and a half, developing this schematic design. And tonight we want to talk about that process and how it led to a design that addresses the gap in the educational experience here in Holyoke between community elementary schools and the secondary programs at Dean and at Holyoke High. This is the very opposite of a model school. It is custom designed to meet the needs for your students, your community, your site, and your educational plan. I'm joined tonight by a few members of our team. We're a diverse team that exceeds the requirements of MSBA core projects for representation of women and minority-owned businesses. JWA itself is a majority woman-owned firm with nearly 40 years of experience designing schools for Western Massachusetts, and we specialize in the K through 12 design. We've worked in communities from East Longmeadow to Granby, North Adams to East Brookfield, and we strive and are proud to meet each community's project with its own unique design solution. We thought it was good to remind folks of our larger team, which includes consultants based here in Holyoke and elsewhere in the Valley and farther to the east. We have long-standing relationships with our entire team and look forward to bringing their expertise to bear on this project. All of the members of the team that you see here, from our security consultants to our cost estimators to our spec writers, we're all part of the original feasibility study and remain eager to complete the project. So to get into our process a little bit, we refer to our design process as evidence-based design. And tonight we wanted to talk about the information and the evidence that shaped this design in particular. So we will divide that into three categories: site context, community context, and educational context. And to start with, let me introduce Rachel from Berkshire Design Group. And Rachel, can you explain how our proposed design is shaped by the unique site context and show us how the design will address the existing conditions and site design requirements?
Sure, thanks, Kristian. As a team, we seek to build a school environment where students and teachers can thrive and grow. The design decisions that we are making with you during this process will be instrumental in shaping a design that provides a sense of safety, belonging, and connection. The Peck School site is unique with its own set of creative opportunities. The site has over 60 feet of vertical elevation change, which is the equivalent of a 5-story building. The existing school is located midway along the grade, meaning it's roughly 2 stories below Chapin and Crozier Field, and feels as if it's built within a bowl. The solar orientation of the grade on site and vegetation create challenges which affect temperature and light available to the school today. Within the wider urban fabric, the school is located at the end of 2 access drives from the south and east. Both of these drives terminate at the bare walls of the school, making arriving at the school feel quite a bit imposing. Due to limited access and circulation, parent drop-off and bus drop-off are commingled, creating potential vehicular and pedestrian conflicts. The proposed design provides an alternative approach, strengthening connections between indoor and outdoor experiences within the school, as well as extending connections beyond the school to Crozier Field, McIntosh Terrace, and the high school. The image at the left shows the previous school footprint in purple. You can see the new design proposes an L-shaped building pushed further to the north, allowing us to open up the area in front of the school for outdoor amenities with great solar orientation and the added benefit of bringing more natural light into the school. Bus and family drop-off zones are now separated for safety with a dedicated bus drop-off service drive on the east side of the school. Now, instead of entry drives terminating at a blank wall, they flow past outdoor classroom spaces and student-oriented gathering areas, emphasizing the school as a space place that is welcoming and a place that one can make their own. The entire site is woven together with accessible paths and entries. The site and school are designed for ease of managing after-school community activities as well as daily school use. We can see a little bit more how the design fits on the site by looking at two cross sections taken through the proposed design. Moving west to east from Crozier Field to Chapin Street, the upper section shows how the new gym fitness center directly connects to Crozier Field. And the section cut at the bottom, cut north to south from beach to the entry drive, shows how the new school is nestled within the 60 feet of grade change, allowing the site as a whole to be reshaped to create a series of comfortable spaces for gathering and social engagement. Zooming in a little closer on the proposed site plan, we'll walk around some of the site features surrounding the school. The gym now has an accessible connection to Crozier Field, additional accessible walks tie back to McIntosh Terrace, significant regrading carves out spaces, both active and passive learning around the site. Informal amphitheater, small field, and gathering area connect the gym to the front of the school while providing a backdrop for the small basketball court. The expanded welcome plaza and outdoor classrooms support gathering of various sizes, including small seating nooks, and a dining terrace spills out from the cafeteria towards the east. Tree decks support arrival and pickup, and service access and deliveries are provided at the north side of the school, along with the dumpster and other necessary infrastructure. Stormwater is not only integrated into the site design, but also is used to shape the outdoor spaces.
Great, thank you, Rachel. So in addition to site context, we also want to talk a little bit about community context. So the second set of critically important data that really shape the design is community data, including information we've gathered through meetings like you see here, as well as objective data from government sources to understand the larger community context of the project. We can definitely say that JWA did more outreach on this project than any in our history over those 40 years. And Dorrie, you led the study effort on our behalf. And so can you talk a little bit about that process?
Definitely. So we began, as we always do, interviewing district leaders, and then with Whitney's help, getting out into the district and visiting with teachers at different schools across the city. We learned a lot about the middle school experience at Holyoke and what it used to offer. We found out, for instance, that many people in the community were angry that the decline of arts education had occurred when district moved to the K-8 model. I remember Mr. Todd generously helping to envision what a new middle school arts program would look like. And I remember being schooled by Lori Banks, a veteran PE teacher, about the need for quality playground space, even for 14 and 15-year-olds. We then began to show up at parents' nights and eventually held 3 community input sessions throughout the city. We also created a design advisory group that Mickey Buell was on, and as well as many other people, which allowed teachers and staff to review all of our work. But by far the most interesting group that we met with were students. So what we heard led us to look more closely at community data to understand where students themselves were coming from. You see in the community data is that most students in Holyoke come from older industrial neighborhoods surrounding downtown that experience the highest concentrations of environmental problems, the highest rates of asthma, the highest rates of depression, and the highest rates of poverty. These are students that are already doing a lot of work before they even get to school. So it's important that this data drive the design so that the school is able to help lessen the burdens and provide an environment where students can thrive emotionally, socially, and academically. After all, what we know is that at the end of the day, students are our most important client. Students are capable of expressing their frustration by tuning out or acting out or walking out. So throughout this process, we have always kept Holyoke students as the heart of our design process. And we will continue to do so, we hope. So on the right are 2 posters that were created during a workshop with Peck School students. Notice that they focus on art, on socializing, on hands-on projects, comfortable spaces, and access to nature. Students already know a lot about what good design is. Coming out of the feasibility study, our final design priorities are the very same as your values as a district: to build an inclusive, culturally responsive, anti-racist school, to foster belonging and a sense of security, to enable positive relationships between learners, educators, staff, and families, to support different kinds of learning, to provide a physically and emotionally healthy environment, to make community use possible after hours to extend enrichment opportunities to students and the larger community. And finally, to take every precaution to avoid doing further harm, a primary tenet of trauma-informed design, a reason why we will work to avoid a design that looks or feels oppressive. Henry Albin, a really talented architect in our office, is now going to walk you through our building plans. Henry?
Thanks, Dorrie. So a major move of our design is to separate the building into 4 floors. The upper 3 floors are academic levels, each corresponding to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade respectively, while the first floor is focused on community and shared learning spaces. The L-shaped configuration allows us to create neighborhoods within each floor, as well as create a more controlled and enclosed exterior terrace and outdoor classrooms at the front of the building. Students enter in the morning at the intersection of the 2 wings of the school, arriving through a secure vestibule into the welcoming common area with walls and displays which celebrate Holyoke's culture and history. This is an important crossroads that transitions students from the open community and shared learning areas that are on this floor to the more intimate learning neighborhoods on the upper floors via an open stairway. Across from the commons is the Media Center, which provides generous area for a whole class to meet, as well as serving as a world language teaching space and faculty meeting location as needed. Beside the Media Center is the Design Lab, a unique workshop where teachers can bring students to do project-based learning and explore vocational programs. Both the Media Center and the Design Lab can be open to the commons to provide a larger communal area. If one turns left upon entering the building, they arrive at the Parent Center, where staff can connect with parents and help families access various resources. Also on this level is the cafeteria and stage, as well as the music and art classrooms with art looking out over the woods behind the school. Finally, the school's medical suite is located across from administration. It is a larger medical clinic intended to provide expanded health and mental health services in collaboration with River Valley Counseling. Each of the upper academic levels supports 1 grade and is divided into 2 communities of learners. By breaking the 600 students up into smaller clusters of 100, the design encourages a strong sense of belonging and community for the students. Think of these neighborhoods as a home base for a team of teachers and students, each with their own identity. In between the 2 neighborhoods, there's a support area for teachers and staff, which contains a planning room, guidance offices, and specialized classrooms such as OT, PT, or autism. In this way, the design aims to bring the additional academic resources that students may need to where they are learning and do so in an inclusive and empathic way. Because of the unique topology of the site and its challenges, the physical education wing, which includes the gymnasium and fitness room, are located on the 2nd floor adjacent to Crozier Field. This allows the gymnasium and fitness areas to be secured separately from the rest of the building, and it provides them with their own entry for after-school events.
So the total square footage of the plan is just over 105,000 square feet. All but 1,800 was approved as eligible for MSBA reimbursement. The unreimbursed square footage includes things like the Parent Center, the extra space included in the health clinic, extra guidance offices, the extra space in the kitchen to support storage of carts for breakfast at the Bell, and a large gym to host high school JV basketball games. On your right, you see the typical floor plan. Each neighborhood or learning area has 3 inclusive classrooms, here, here, and here, a half-size classroom for ELL, and a project-based learning area and collaboration space outside of the classrooms. The neighborhood also includes a middle school science lab and prep room, which we've already adjusted to make sure it suits the current guidelines that the MSBA provides for science classrooms. The district asked for classrooms that were 900 square feet or more in order to support an inclusive teaching model that the district has. This classroom will be large enough to support up to 28 students easily, as well as the paras, academic coaches, and teachers that are required in an inclusive program. Each classroom has its own sink and nook area. The nook area is this purple thing here in the corner of every classroom. And the nook area is really just a place to allow students to retreat to when they're feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated. It's something that we saw a lot of teachers doing in their own classroom and felt that we should incorporate. The sink also helps to keep students in the classroom rather than heading out of the classroom to grab a drink of water. So the whole point here is to keep transitions down, but provide some of the transition experience that students will begin to experience at the high school level. And finally, the plan includes one sensory integration room on this floor. This is the only one in the school, but it's here on the third floor. And that sensory integration room is something that the district specifically asked for and that DESE strongly supported and hoped would become a model for other districts. So the most important decisions we make as designers are the decisions we make within the classroom, because this is where students spend the majority of their day. Again, we use the data to set our priorities, and the data argued for a healthy classroom with natural materials, the very best ventilation, good acoustics, daylight, and views to the outdoors, as well as up-to-date teaching technology and high-speed internet. This is a rendering. We're sort of at a disadvantage. We can't show you the finished school, so we have to show you renderings. This is a rendering of a typical classroom for Peck School. You see that it includes generous windows, LED lighting, movable furniture, the proposed nook, and non-toxic linoleum flooring. You'll also notice that there's no ceiling. So this drop ceiling that you typically see in schools, and that you see quite a few of at Peck currently, is gone. And instead, the acoustic material is right here. It's positioned vertically, which actually works better than if it's positioned horizontally. And this move allows us to expose this cross-laminated timber, which is a structural system that we're applying to the floor system for the school. Now, there are many good reasons to use mass timber that Jeff's going to speak about, but for us, the most important reason is that the presence of wood positively impacts our nervous system and our heart rate. It helps students feel grounded. It naturally regulates humidity levels and provides a healthier environment. But first, Matt DeSalvo, one of our engineers, is here. Matt, can you explain our plans for ventilation, heating, and cooling?
Yes, thank you, Dorrie. So I'll start by pointing out that the existing Peck School utilizes an all-electric HVAC system already. So in consideration for the natural gas moratorium in Holyoke, we designed or began to design an all-electric HVAC system. The basis of design HVAC system is an air source heat pump, VRF system, variable refrigerant flow, and we can cool and heat simultaneously with this system in various spaces throughout the building. So we compared this basis of design system to 3 propane-sourced HVAC systems and 1 geothermal source all-electric system option using energy modeling over a 30-year study period. The VRF air source heat pump system represented the lowest EUI, that's the energy use intensity or energy use over a year of all options studied, and has the benefit of being a carbon conscious mechanical system. We intend to use 100% outside air systems, which is important, where Dorrie just spoke about the high asthma levels in Holyoke. So 100% outside air, all fresh air delivered to the classrooms, and the building is exhausted back out through the unit. There's no air recirculation. Demand control ventilation based on CO2 levels within the space. That's for energy efficiency purposes, and energy recovery wheels also add to the sustainability of the proposed system. Additionally, the new energy code in Massachusetts is anticipated to be adopted in January of 2023, and the stretch code should be adopted in July of 2023. Our system design will already meet all the requirements of the new energy codes.
Yeah, Matt, thank you. As you mentioned, the natural gas moratorium kind of put us ahead of the curve on that one, so we're able to meet the new stretch code with the design from a few years ago, which is pretty impressive. We're also quite comfortable and confident with this approach because we've recently done it before. So at our recently completed Springfield Prep School, charter school down in Springfield, we renovated an existing office building for this K-8 charter school, and we placed all the mechanical systems with the same systems Matt just described. The school did not have any, specific agenda or goal of being highly sustainable, but after we explained the health and operational savings of the more efficient system, they agreed to the approach and resulting in a school with an annual estimated energy cost of just $37,000 a year. So in addition to the mechanical systems, we also wanted to specifically address the structural system that Dorrie referenced in that view of the classroom. And so let me turn it over to Jeff from SGH, one of the structural engineers on the project.
I don't want to undermine Jeff, but I just want to say we're at 20 minutes. So hopefully there's not too many more slides left. The presentation has been great, but it'd be good if it's the last one. So I'm sure people are tired.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, I'll try to fly through this real quick, respect to time here. So our proposed structural system is a cross-laminated timber deck that will comprise the floor and roof plates of the building. It sits on a conventional steel frame. And the real impetus for this technology is carbon consciousness, right? We're supplanting a conventional steel and concrete system, which is very carbon intensive, with a renewable and sustainable resource, which is wood. And the structural benefits for this system, one of the reasons we like it, wood's a lot lighter than concrete, just as a density as a material. But even as we can increase the thickness of the wood beyond the typical thicknesses of concrete, we're still going to end up with a floor system that's about 50% lighter. So that can save us a good amount of money on both steel tonnage and material consumption there. And also there's potential savings in the foundations and the concreting required for that, because we end up with a lighter building. And we also like it logistically during construction. It's just cleaner. The CLT panels are prefabricated off-site. They show up all CNC tooled, so there's no cutting, there's no manipulating the wood on-site. It's really a smaller crew than you'd have with the concrete system. So you may have a crane operator and 3 or 4 men working, simply screwing the panels down. So that increased production rate, smaller crews, less waste on site, and really it's quiet. There's fewer trucks on site, no concreting, no trucks showing up. And finally, getting back to Dorrie's point about the ceilings, the structure is the ceiling, that you get that nice biophilic texture of wood, and it eliminates another trade coming in to put in the ceiling and the material consumption associated with that.
Thank you, Jeff. Understanding Margaret's comment on the time, we'll go through these rather quickly. We just wanted to quickly illustrate 2 different timelines that we came up with. This one is a CM at risk here. And we really think that since we've got a head start, having already worked on this project, we can crunch our schematic design down to about 3 months. And then looking for MSBA approval, and we've got about 13 months of construction document development. But with the CM at risk approach, the contractor could get started early. So you can see we've got demolition happening while we're still in construction documents. So with this approach, we still are able to give the contractor, about 15 to 20 months for construction and still meet that August of 2026 deadline. This is a design bid build approach and could have some savings on the construction side of it, but we think those might be negated by the fact that it will probably take longer to complete the project. So as you can see here, we'd have to wait till we get all the way through that bid process before we start demolition. So it kind of pushes out that construction timeline by about 4 months. So something to consider once we're in schematic design, but looking at the goalpost of August 2026, at this point, we're leaning towards a CM at risk approach. So the final question was what we see as the key challenges of the project. And I think I'll wait to address these during the question and answer session. And that's what we're looking forward to getting into. But we all feel that the greatest challenge really is going to be the recent escalation in construction costs. And so we're very mindful of that as we present this design from a few years ago.
So we'll come back to those ideas probably in the question and answer, but we want to just close with a set of images of 4 of our most recently completed projects. Again, we're at a disadvantage not being able to show you a completed PEC school yet. So instead, you'll notice that what you see here are 4 very different and unique projects. Each is specific to the community, the client, and the site. That's because we approach every project with the same respect and passion to meet the specific needs of the students we're hired to serve. No two schools are alike and no 2 situations are alike. And finally, we really look forward to completing one more project, and this project specifically for your community, the Peck School. We look forward to completing it with you and completing the work that we started 5 years ago with you. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thanks. So I'm going to look for hands here if I can get into the right view here.
Well, I see Mark and then Dave.
Yep. Okay. How about Dave? You want to start?
All right, I'll get to start again. Thank you. Actually, 2 questions this time. Any estimates of the cost per square foot? Preferably if it could be broken up between the new construction and the demolition. And my second question is, considering safety and security, you'd have the outdoor the outdoor classrooms on the outside of the building. Is there any possibility of some sort of courtyard setup that they could be inside, secured within the building?
So to talk about the cost issue first, I would say that, as you know, that the project was estimated back when we completed it in 2019, right before the override process. So the cost has escalated as a whole since we did the project. I believe the cost per square foot at that time, Kristian, you're better at the numbers than I am. I think we were at $470 for Peck School.
Including the demolition.
Including demolition, which is still part of the project. Costs have risen since then. So what we're actually recommending is that when we jump into the schematic design, the first thing we do before even touching the drawings is have it re-costed. It's really just about finding out where prices have changed since we left the project back then, because there's been an enormous amount of escalation. Once we have that re-costed, then we'll know actually where that project is, and we can start talking about what we want to do to bring the cost down from where it is, which has obviously gone up from what we had before, and get into it again. So we anticipate in the schematic design phase doing 2 cost estimates, one at the beginning and one at the ending, and in between doing some change to the project to see if we can bring down the cost. I'm wondering if it'd be helpful if I jump back to that slide and talk a little bit about some of those cost proposals, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back to the share. So yeah, I'll start on this, Kristian. You feel free to jump in. But first off, we just want to say that we know that cost is a huge issue here, and that the community made that very, very clear. The project as a whole, at the time that it was developed, is actually very much at the low end of most public schools in Massachusetts. Nonetheless, knowing that that's still going to be a concern and that there has been escalation, we want to be sure that the first priority really is trying to spend the money where it has the most impact on students and their well-being. We do think that releasing the early demo packages and foundation packages will shorten the schedule. And if you shorten the schedule, you shorten the midpoint of construction where most of that cost estimate is based. So you're shortening the cost of the project as well. So that's part of the recommendation for that. Reducing length of construction also allows you to get some of those materials ordered earlier. The CMR process helps a little bit in that. We also think that it's worth talking about pursuing other funding sources to reduce site and infrastructure costs. So in that site plan, Rachel was looking at things like the dingle that we felt needed to be improved to make it a safer site as a whole. So some of those things on the periphery that the project touches are things that could be phased in later or could be supported through other means, not the project costs. So that's something that we'd like to look at with you. And continually looking at the possibility of phasing in some of those elements. And then there are cost savings that could be done in the size of the classrooms. Erin said when we were on site that the inclusive model hasn't actually worked out quite the way the district had hoped. It's always been a struggle. And the fact that we have over 900 square foot classrooms and lockers in the corridors, those are two areas where if you take out the lockers, you're taking out 2 square feet all the way along the hall, you're taking out a little bit of the classrooms without any change in the overall structural approach. We could actually change it quite quickly and save some. So that actually can have some impact, but it's a hard choice to make. And then we have seen districts consider a pre-engineered metal building as a way of bringing down the cost of the gym. It doesn't reduce square footage, but it does allow you to reduce the cost. And it's not everybody's favorite idea, but it allows you to pre-order certain factors of the gym and actually work fairly quickly. And it's a commonly used approach in charter schools. And then there's really reviewing the materials of the project carefully with you as we see the market change in different ways. American products are actually cheaper than they were, several years ago. So those are some ideas that we have. As to the courtyard idea, the design to hit the deadline that you have, we would recommend staying with this design because it's ready to go. A courtyard idea on that site I see as a real problem because it would actually push deeper into the site, and as we've spoken about, the grading of the site is such that you'd end up having to build retaining walls to really expand the site backwards. So courtyards are good. They do create safe spaces, but they have challenges too. They're hard to maintain, hard to get service into. So while a courtyard would be a lovely idea on a flat site, I think this is a challenging site on which to do that. And I think you already have a design that's ready to go. The outdoor areas in front of the school we put there also because of the south light that Rachel was speaking about, and wanting to create a space right outside of the admin and a space that would support student community use when the school is not in session. These become important playgrounds for the neighborhood around. So those are some reasons why I think that the design works fairly well as an L-shaped design and would not work as a courtyard. Kristian, you want to jump in on any of that, or does that cover your thoughts too?
No, I think you covered it. I mean, Dave, you did ask about the demolition cost, and I do have the old cost estimates. I mean, keep in mind, these are numbers from 3 years ago, but at that time, the new school was coming in at about 35 million. The demo costs were, about 1 to 1.5 million, somewhere in that ballpark. And then there was another about 2 million for hazardous material abatement while demolishing the existing school. About 5 million in site work, and then another 15 million in contingencies and escalation and overhead and profit and things like that for the contractors' numbers. But the demolition and hazmat together again is coming out at that time right around $3 million, somewhere in that ballpark.
All right. I think I saw that Mark Lubold had a question as well.
Yeah.
Dorrie, can you take the screen down so I can see everybody's hands again?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Sure. I just had 2 questions. One was there an issue the last time? I was trying to remember back on that cross laminate timber decking, like lead times or something like that, or not being able to get the product. There was a lot of unknowns. I kind of remember something along those lines.
Great, I'm glad you asked, because I think that's an unusual element that we have in this design. So when we introduced it, it was fairly new to Massachusetts as a product. It's now much more common. There are 3 other schools that have already used it in Massachusetts. One is in Northfield, so we can show it to you. It's much more common in the Pacific Northwest and in England, but it was fairly new to this area.
I definitely like it. Don't get me wrong. Just I had questions about.
Yeah, and we were really cautious in the first estimate because of that. So one of the arguments for it is that it shortens the construction period, and that could speed up the calendar. We did not put that into the first schedule because we didn't want to overpromise. We were trying to be very, very realistic, and the MSBA wanted us to be very, very careful. But now the contractor who built one of those CLT schools in Massachusetts is Fontaine, who was our CM for this project. So they have a lot of confidence in it, and they've been working with a firm out of Quebec to develop the CLT. So you do have to order it ahead of time. Right. So that's why the CMR process and the CLT kind of go together in our minds. They would both have advantages in shortening the schedule. So that's one of the pairings. So CLT isn't an unusual product. Essentially, for those who've never seen it before, it's like you're taking tons of 2x4s and overlapping them and gluing them together into this giant piece of what we call, plywood on steroids. So it becomes this massive floor deck, and it looks intimidating, but it actually replaces all of that concrete that's going floor to floor. And in some ways, I think it relates to the old mills in Holyoke that were, floor, but these were much more solid than those were.
Yeah, and just my final question: what was like the final estimate from a few years ago? I just don't have that handy.
Kristian has that in front of him right now.
Yeah, so that again from the 2019 numbers was coming in at just about $56 million. That's with the design and estimated contingency with escalation. All of the numbers.
With the CLT, at the time that we proposed it, CLT was more expensive than the steel system. And there was a point recently when the two were very, very competitive because the price of steel went up. And that's part of why we were interested in it. The price of steel was already rising, and we knew this was coming. So CLT has become more popular because of steel prices and availability. But it's still unique enough that we'd have to price the two to compare and see what the difference is in cost between the two systems. And that's also part of why we recommend an early pricing process.
Sure, thank you.
I see Aaron Brunel's hand up.
Yeah, one thing I didn't remember seeing before, and it's probably just an error of my brain. If you go back to the site map, do you have the bus traffic coming through the dingle? Did I see that right?
Let me go back to it.
No, you have bus traffic coming around and then going up the little street, but if it says one way, so where are they entering from?
Down at the high school.
It is, right? So you have the buses coming up the dingle.
Yes. So it's new. Let me see.
Yeah, it's a new access drive, and the regrading makes it accessible. So we also could have a sidewalk connection to the high school.
I think that's fantastic. I didn't recall seeing that last time, but I think that's fantastic because, as you know, one of the hopes in having this location is better collaboration with the high school. So having that not have to be a separate project to enhance and having it as just part of the project and having the buses come that way. Personally, I think it makes a lot of sense as long as operationally the high school agrees with us that our buses coming through their parking lot makes sense too. So there's keeping that in mind. And then, am I understanding that you currently don't have a cost estimate for us based on inflation? If the 56 million was the 2019 number, you don't have a potential number for us now?
No, we don't yet. We will as soon as we start the project again. So the first thing we do is send it out to have that cost estimate done. So anything we would be doing, we could just do a random estimation based on cost inflation, but it wouldn't be accurate. So
can you give me an estimation of what inflation would be? Just because we're obviously trying to compare you guys now to model schools that have at least some projection of cost.
You know what?
Square feet.
Erin, I think that Whitney and Margaret and I might have calculated this, so let us look around a little bit. Well, I just want to add, I mean, it's essentially the model school folks had numbers of when they built their buildings, and we have an estimate of what this one was going to cost. You just have to decide, what escalation percentage you're going to use, right?
Okay, so the numbers they gave us are not accurate either. Those are okay, all right. Good,
well,
thank you for that clarity.
The problem is every single person you ask is going to give you a different percentage. So you have to agree on a percentage and apply it across the board. Otherwise, it's just opinion.
And my point is also that you can do a general escalation factor, but in reality, every part of the project has had different types of escalation. Steel is escalated differently than wood, and the materials in the school escalated differently. So you really kind of have to take each of those projects and re-estimate them today to know.
And then if we do select you guys and we go out to bid, the numbers you get then, even though building won't be ready for 2 or 3 years, they can or cannot increase further at that point.
So the cost estimators will include an escalation rate that they're comfortable with, as Bert mentioned, to the halfway point of construction.
Okay.
And so that initial cost estimate would just be for our information only. We'll then use that to help tailor, our approach to the schematic design process. Which materials are we going to keep? Which should we look at alternatives? Discussing with you all about, do we need to think about a different approach to the gym, or should we adjust some of these square footages? Then once we get to the end of that schematic design process, then that's the number that will be set in stone and that we will take forward as our project budget.
And with the CMR process, the construction manager is ultimately accepting and committing to a specific number, and then you're set from there.
Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Collmore?
I've got a lot here, but
sure.
Dorrie, do you mind taking the?
Sorry.
I just want to make sure I see hands. Whitney, do you want to ask the question that you asked of others?
Sure. In a different way, but I appreciate that, Margaret. So, Dorrie and Kristian, I guess what we have here is similar to a lot of our school building advisory committee meetings. They come in a hybrid version. So if this is a procurement which is brought forward from the MSBA as part of an approved method to transfer efficiencies from one community to another with the model schools program, and you just happen not to participate in that for no particular reason other than I'm not sure, but at the time in which that was created, here we are now with 3 responding architectural firms. And how do we balance the realities of what the MSBA is telling us, that they have a cap, and we know that there's been some disclosure from the other 2 firms stating that yes, we'll need to make some adjustments, but we don't really know where that path leads at this time. In basic comparison, not knowing where anyone else is going to come in, where are you guys going to come in? As I've seen 8% as a standard of percentage of architectural costs in relationship to overall project costs. We've heard tonight 11 or 12%. So I don't know if they're padding it, trying to give us an idea of where, if they came in at 9, well, then we save 3. So, and we've all talked for quite a bit of time in regards to escalation and so forth. But I think Aaron Brunel's question is not pointed by any means. We need direction now in regards to what we believe are anticipated and expected costs based on the averages of which you folks have been actively engaged in since we've unfortunately parted since November of 2019. You know where I'm coming from here? So we're going to make a decision here. And there are some beautiful designs, and yours is no question crafted to the best degree in which the city of Holyoke has participated humanly in, not just through a program that can manipulate and create graphic images, because ultimately it's going to come down to $1. And that's what killed the last project. It wasn't the design. So we need to have some direction. We need to have some serious reckoning in regards to the decisions and the actual factors of which the well-intentioned people that you see before you are going to have to come to a reckoning on. So that's not really a question, but it gets back to Aaron's, comment. and the other firms had put together figures in relationship towards escalation, which then brought us to today's reality. So if we looked at where we were in November of 2019, we spoke at the parking lot that day. The first year's escalation in 2020 was 14%. The second year's escalation was 12%. That's 26. The third year's percentage was 9%. That's 35. The fourth year's percentage, of which we're currently looking forward to in 2023, is anticipated at 8. There's 43. So what's the year after that? We're up to 50%.
Right.
So if you added 50% to where we're at in 2019, and just take it from there, where are we at? And
Right.
that's the question.
Right, right. So I don't think that that's unreasonable to think. We've all been kind of alarmed by how quickly the cost of schools has been rising as a result of these costs everywhere.
And if I might add one more thing, Dorrie, the previous firm had stated that in spite of their best forecasting intentions, utilizing standard estimators, of which there aren't a tremendous number of in the New England region, they're still being surprised by 20% currently. And their projections have not met the realities of the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. So to your first question, you were asking about, I think you were trying to basically just get to the question of what our fee would be in relation.
Well, and again, I mean, where are you seeing them come in with the work that you're doing? Not trying to bullet you on this one, but where's the range you're at in regards to no matter what you're designing?
Cost per square foot in general, where are they now?
No, percentage of project.
Okay. So typically our fees on an MSBA school project over the whole project are 10%.
Yep.
And schematic design has essentially already happened, and it's typically 10% of that 10%.
1%.
Yeah, I mean, well, 10% of 1% of the 10%. Yeah, 10% of the whole. Yes, 1%.
A small amount.
Right. So a small amount. So that's the little piece of it. We already have a proposal into you for this kind of redo effort.
Absolutely.
So that's already even, not even worrying about that. That's committed.
Yep.
So then we're really just picking up on the DD part. So I think we were looking at this as typically about 8.5%, 8.5 to 9 of the project cost.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next money maker.
Uh-huh.
What are we looking at? And again, if you want to get back to us and take some more time, but we do need to have some basis of understanding. And I don't know where the next hour goes after this last interview here, but or what the eventual ask is of the committee in order to come to a reckoning in regards to how we proceed here. But we do need some guidance from you in regards to where you're. Okay, so let's go at it a different way. We know the size of the building. Mm-hmm. Where are the footages coming in now currently for stuff that you're currently under design or in process of bid or whatever your current workload is at this time?
Per square foot?
Yes, sir.
So we've got some that are estimating right at around 700 square foot. That's including everything for the site and escalation and all of that. But
and I fully appreciate that.
Ballpark.
Yep. And if that's what the market is, that's what the market is.
Yeah. I mean, Whitney, they're interesting and complex questions. I mean, even on the designer fee, I hate to wade into it too much, but it would be a little bit interesting with the model school approach. I don't know if the MSBA reimbursement will change if it's a model school or not, and therefore change the amount that the MSBA will contribute towards the designer fees.
For the actual square footage of construction costs, I don't think that's a variable. I think the construction, they attempted to put a limit of 4.75%, which is publicly advertised through their website for the participants, the design firms in the model schools program.
Right. So if the design
subject to negotiation.
Right. It might be more on the city than others. But in terms of, evaluating the three options that you've had shown to you tonight, I mean, I guess my only thought is to really go with your gut on which firm you're going to be able to work with the most, because, all three firms will be able to change their designs somewhat to meet your needs. And so the final price, hopefully, I'll just speak for myself. Our firm would strive to tailor the project to your needs. We can't go back and dial back the cost to 2019 costs, but we can think pretty broadly, including what some might call more drastic measures of a pre-engineered metal gym, or changing our approach to different interior materials. We would work with you to try and find that sweet spot of what the building committee feels comfortable with and what they feel that the community of Holyoke can afford.
Your 10 steps were much appreciated.
Yes, and I want to jump in here and say, Whitney, I appreciate this because I think this is what we now need to launch into. We were at our time for the interview. So I want to just do a check to see if anybody's got any other questions. And yes, I see Aaron has a finger up.
Yeah, just for clarity. So for the building is around 100,000 square feet, correct? So at 700 price per square foot, we're around 70 million.
Yeah.
Ballpark that, right?
Ballpark. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
That would not be including the demolition of the existing Peck school. That would just be for the new construction.
Yep.
So add 4.5 to that.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do, not seeing any other hands, is to thank the Jones Whitsett team and keep you all for a couple minutes to talk about next steps. So that was a great presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for staying
Thank
awake.
you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Long time.
Great to see you guys. Thank you.
For clarity, guys, by staying, she means the committee members. So please do not.
The committee members have to stay. You don't get to.
We're going.
Unless you
Thank
have
you.
a blue background, you have to stay.
Bye. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, folks, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's just, well, first of all, nice job, team. That was a lot to listen to. And I wish it were not 8:00 at night, because I would really like to have a robust discussion about this, but my guess is people are pretty tired. If people want to have a conversation, have a brief conversation, just to sort of download like their thoughts, what I would do is I would just go around the list quickly and let everybody who wanted to sort of say 2 cents. I would not recommend, unless you really want to sit now and take an hour, I would not recommend trying to make this decision tonight. I think we should reconvene in a week. I'm seeing heads nodding. Okay, so take some time to think about it. Let me know if you have questions. Reconvene next week for a short meeting to really record our thoughts and make a decision. To Whitney's point, what happens next from a process perspective is that the committee ranks their preferences, and then I work with representatives of the committee to negotiate with the top ranked firm. And if we are able to come to what seems like a satisfactory fee agreement with the top ranked firm, then they're it. And if we're not, we go to the second ranked firm. So that's the process. Do people feel up to taking 15 minutes to just go around the room and sort of saying like, this is my gut, this is what I heard? Can we do that?
Yeah, I think we should do that. And then I think if we can think of any, if there's any solid, like really necessary information we feel like we're missing,
follow-up
and a
question,
follow-up email to the firms to get some questions. Like mainly, like Whitney and I were pushing to get an idea of cost. Like we need to know realistically in 2023, what do you expect this project to cost? I think we need at least a ballpark number from everybody.
Yep. And I think we can do that. I can get the costs at the time the buildings were bid, and I can apply the same. I mean, what's interesting is that I believe all three of them have the same estimator. So I'm gonna go to the estimator and say, what would you apply over this period of time, right? I think when you start asking them, there's a desire to please, and I think you really just have to be very nuts and bolts about it. So
Gotta be factual.
Is it?
I'm already talking. I guess I'll go first. If that's
Aaron
all right.
Brunel, you may go first.
So I feel like I really enjoyed the first presentation. I feel like I didn't enjoy the second firm as much. And then the third presentation, of course, blew me away. Like I expected it to, because everything was just done differently, right? They took us and built something that works for us instead of taking something and making it work for us. And I just feel that Jones Whitsett knows our community more, spent more time invested in getting to know our community, getting to know what our needs were. So I just felt that their presentation hit home to me more in their points of connecting to the community, understanding our community needs, understanding the need that this school will be a community resource, not just a school building. That larger medical wing, having the parents resource center. I like the larger gym so that we can host high school games there. I just felt like it feels more homey. I know at the end of the day, we have to take finances into consideration as well as what is going to work best with our community. But if I could, for me, it felt homey. It felt comfortable. I felt like they understood what we as a community were looking for. So that's just my 2 cents. I'll pass it on because I know we're trying not to take too long.
So Aaron, I'm going to use you as an object example here, because I want you, I agree with I understand your comments about Jones Whitsett, but I want you to think about specifically when you say you enjoyed the first and you didn't enjoy the second. Can you articulate a nugget of why you felt that way? Because I think this is something that needs to go beyond like and don't like. We need to be specific in using language here.
Yeah, so I felt like the first firm had their talking points more in detail to what works for Holyoke. I felt like I know a couple of people had questions about different programming models and adapting their building to suit us, and I felt like they had really good answers and that they have thought thoroughly about choosing a building that worked for us. Where I felt the second firm was just kind of like, oh, either of these could potentially work and we could potentially do this and potentially do that, but we're going to cut off this. I just felt like their presentation as a whole felt like it could have been a presentation for 3 other districts, where the first one I felt tailored to us more.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example. So folks, when you get to the extent that you can sort of nail a nugget about like, don't like feeling, that's helpful. So how about Mayor Garcia, would you like to go next? Or would you like to?
My comments are right in line with Aaron. And particularly that first one. And it's you say one thing, then later on you find out other thing, but they seemed pretty promising when it came to saving money versus the third one where it's they built it from the ground up that particularly meets the needs of our city, but it's going to cost more than the first one, I think. And so it just comes down to dollars and cents and what we might be able to afford. I agree with everything Aaron said. I wasn't too thrilled about the presentation of the middle one. It was more broadly speaking opposed to specific. But more so when it comes to the first or third one, as much as I want to go with either one, it's going to come down to who can do it at a lesser cost. Or within an area of which we can afford.
Okay. Can I ask if Anthony is able to speak up?
Yeah, sure. I don't think I would say anything different. I thought Jones Whitsett's presentation was by far the best, and I mean, taking into context that they obviously got a head start and had the familiarity with this community and knew more about us than the other two because of we worked with them. So it's kind of not fair to hold that against the other designers, but that is the reality. Like, they really put forward a design that obviously took a lot more thought and obviously like was more relevant to our community. I didn't like the second presentation. It didn't present well. Like, it didn't fit well, and they didn't really seem too confident in a lot of, some of our questions to them. And then the first one I did like. I thought their presentation was cool. I thought the schools were cool. And they had a strong emphasis on coming in under budget, but I don't know how recent that was, but that is one thing that I liked about that first designer is they have a track record for coming in under budget based on the information they presented to us today. So my first choice would be Jones Whitsett. My second choice would be the first firm that we looked at. And then I wouldn't even consider the second one.
Okay. Who's next here? How about Whitney and Mr. Collmore?
Mr. Collmore.
Yes, I didn't hear anything about prices for, I'm going to just throw it out, for parking places. Because my feeling is we have enough space along McIntosh Terrace to put 40 cars. And if we took the parking places that is proposed and utilize that land for something else rather than parking places, I think that would go a long way. If we had prices and footage of how much it costs per parking place, we could have a better design than what is showing up now. On the thoughts of going and looking at the three candidates, I definitely would go with number one. Number three did a nice presentation, but they were way out of line of what we're looking for in a school, and their prices. We just can't afford their price completely. The middle one just has some good points, but they're not telling us exactly how much it's going to cost per footage for outside space.
So, anything else?
No, that's all.
I think Erin Burnell's reflections are super. And Margaret, I'm glad that you prompted Erin because she was very insightful in regards to her base feelings to those presentations. The mayor, I think, nails it because he realizes he's looking at every aspect of the city and the fiduciary responsibility he has. It's a tremendous burden. Anthony agrees, and I'm with Anthony in regards to, I think number one would be a little bit less in cost, but here's the reality is that the last project died because of price. These architects are going to put forward beautiful buildings, no question about it. They're seasoned veterans. So the first one built 200 schools over 70 years. Obviously not the same team you see here, but the history there does have perpetuity. So when we look at the reality that hypothetically this is what we think it's going to cost, whatever, I can't bring forth an estimate now. I don't feel, okay, but here's the reality. So if you looked at the first presenter, who was Mount Vernon Group, the second one was Flansburg. The Mount Vernon Group put a graph, a dot graph up on the screen, and they had little stars, green stars, where their various projects over the ages had come in that were specific reflections. That's an MSBA graph. It's not their graph. And if you look at where their projects came in over the years per square foot at a moment in time, there was the proof that there was tremendous efficiency and cost effectiveness across the time span for every project that they put forward, that they highlighted. There might have been some more that they didn't highlight, but the reality here is that's a track record. And we need to have stability in regards to our decision to bring forth a recommendation on behalf of the entire community that the mayor will try to support, that offers that efficiency and that value to the taxpayer of Holyoke. Other than that, we're wasting our time and the thing's going to die.
All right. How about Mark?
Yes. So I'll start with Jones Whitsett. Obviously, they had a nice design. It was our design, right? Unique for our community. I was a little disappointed they didn't have a back of the envelope amount of what they thought the escalation was. I know they use it. I don't know why they didn't have something for us. So I was a little disappointed in that regard with Jones Whitsett. With Flansburg, their schools, they really emphasized, that they were built on flat ground. I think they've said that a number of times. And I feel if we were to go with them, that they were going to have considerable redesign of either of the schools that they were going to put on this location. So I didn't really feel that they would have been the best in that regard. And with Mount Vernon Group, I was very impressed with not only their presentation, but the diversity of the team. They have a local office in Chicopee. I like the courtyard for the outside learning. I think Dave Yost kind of hit on that earlier about the security of having the outside classrooms enclosed for safety reasons. And as Whitney said, they just had a huge amount of projects that were well under budget, which was pretty impressive. When you're talking at 500 a square feet that they believe they can come in, as opposed to 700, 750, 800 square feet, that's considerable. That's not
if it's true.
Well, of course, but we're here. They're professionals, and we have to, have some faith that they're putting their best professional foot forward. I also like the Mount Vernon Group site design. They too had the bus route coming from the high school parking lot. And they also had a service road going all the way around for fire trucks to be able to access the entire outside of the school. And, the other two designs didn't have that. So I just felt, if I had to vote today, it'd be Mount Vernon Group, but I want to contemplate, everything. And a quick question for you, Margaret. Have you worked with any of these groups besides Jones Whitsett?
I have not worked with either Mount Vernon Group or Flansburg. We have interviewed them both before for projects in the past, and others were selected. So
okay, thank you.
So in the effort of time, could we possibly see a show of hands for anybody who feels like they want to share their thoughts now? I think we need to discuss our next meeting, if we're going to meet again before the 3rd, or stick to the 3rd as our next. And then possibly people can email in if they have direct follow-up questions we need. So, all right, I see 3 more hands. So Jamie, go ahead, hon.
A few things, because I'm newer to the process, so I don't know as much of the history before, like with Jones Whitsett. But one thing I picked up on is they said that 1,800 square feet is not reimbursable. Would that be across the board for everybody? Would Mount Vernon and Flansburg, with their designs, 1,800 square feet not be reimbursable by MSBA? That's a question I have. Maybe Margaret or Aaron would know more about it. And this was my first time really seeing Jones Whitsett presented. You know, Aaron had sent it to me and I reviewed it, but hearing it and having more of a presentation like you guys did, definitely one advantage they had was time. They had the gift of time. They worked on this for 18 months. So one thing I didn't like is now they're talking about like a prefab gym, no courtyard. So from talking to the group, and so many things that people loved was like their design and their personal touches, like courtyards, gyms are important. You know, that was kind of a disappointment because they talked about how much the gym teacher, you know, had relayed to them, like the importance of gym and things like that. Prefab, when we're doing a school that we're putting this much money into, like a prefab gym, and looking at the other designs, it wasn't my favorite point of theirs, but the design is beautiful. I like the way it's built in the, you know, the slope and comes up. It's 4 feet or 4 stories where the other ones are 2. So I get how everybody fell in love with it. The Mount, I'm basically in line with everybody else, but you know, Mount Vernon group, I liked as well. They have the experience, they have the 200 schools. I feel like that they did give Holyoke some more personal attention. And I feel like if both of these groups had 18 months to do 2, I think we would have been more than blown away by their presentations. So that's just something to keep in perspective. So just my real question was, is that 1,800 square feet is not reimbursable by MSBA? What does that mean? And is everybody else's proposals, will they have 1,800 square feet not reimbursable? Because that's, again, leveling the playing field when we're talking dollars and cents. So,
well, yes, from the Jones Whitsett one, the non-reimbursable square footage is the stuff that suited our community that we can certainly alter if we wanted, like the larger medical facilities. So that way, you know, you could possibly have.
So it's the parent center, the medical facility, and the larger gym, which were 3 things.
And extra guidance counselor rooms, I heard.
And so those were things that the committee at the time asked for and do not have to be in the project. But the committee at the time looked at the cost of those, where Holyoke was paying the full freight, and decided to keep them in. Every project would have to go through this process of evaluating whether they can get to the MSBA square footages and whether that would result in anything being excluded. So for instance, if you looked at the detail, one of the Flansburg drawing, I don't remember which one of the Flansburg projects had a significant amount of space that was in the other category. Well, it turned out when I asked, that was because they had the superintendent's office in the building, and you can't, the MSBA won't reimburse on district offices, but that community decided to put the superintendent's office there and pay for it because that was the right place for them. So each of these designs will have some excluded space, but I couldn't tell you right now what it would be because it's sort of the devil is in the details about the square foot, you know, the calculation space by space against the guidelines.
Margaret, can I 30 second on this?
Yeah.
This is for everybody, but especially for Jamie. The 1,800 square feet is pennies on the dollar. If you multiply it by $700 a square foot, the 1,800 square feet is $1.2 million. $1.2 million. Okay. If you look at the difference between $700 a square feet and what the MSBA is giving you, $360 max for that square footage, the difference there is $340. You multiply $340 times 106,000 square feet, which is the size of this building. That's $36 million that you're fronting out of your own pocket. So the true variable here that is non-reimbursable is the overall cost of the project and how it relates to that $360. The 1,800 square feet is peanuts.
Yeah, that's an excellent explanation.
No,
Jamie,
thank you.
But you had some other piece of that question that I didn't write down. Are you good?
No, I think I'm good. It was, you know, Jones Whitsett is beautiful, but is it affordable is really my question. It's gorgeous. It was tailored. It's everything we would want in a school, but can we pay for it? You know, it's like.
So I just want to make one point about this that I think is really important. I think this issue of cost is really tangled because it's easy to mix up what the cost was then and what the cost is now. And I could see that happening in this conversation. When the Holyoke projects were designed, this project for the other site, so not including the demolition, was the lowest cost project in the pipeline at that time. So as a relative cost in that moment of time, it was the lowest. So the question you're asking, we got like at least 3, and I would probably say 6 different answers about what that escalation means now. And I want to come back to you with something that's escalating them uniformly.
I think that will be helpful for the whole committee. And then that's before we can weigh in a final decision, is definitely, we have to look at that.
Definitely. Jessica, I see you would like to, actually Dave had his hand up, and Jessica. Dave, why don't you go first?
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Just briefly summarize. We seem to be looking at square foot costs somewhere between under 500 and over 700. So we really need to get some clear numbers on that. And just to emphasize what people said, Joan Whitsett had a huge head start on getting to know the community. So I can't really hold that against the other 2 presenters. And my gut feeling is that the first one, the Mount Vernon, would be the most cost conscious, most trying to get most effective on cost, and operationally, I'm thinking the first 2 models were 2 floors, and the third one is 4 floors. So I think operating costs, I think 2 floors might be considerably less overall. And
so I want to make a comment about that. What surprised me about these presentations is that, and I think you saw in Jones Whitsett's, the way the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were organized, 1 floor per grade, essentially. I did not understand from the presentations that were made, which were rectangular buildings that ran courtyards, how that worked for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And, I think it's a function of the fact that there was a different grade range, but that is something I think to think about. Is the other projects are 2-story buildings, not 4-story buildings. And so would be quite a different organization around the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade pieces.
I mean, I'm just thinking as an example, we were talking about monitoring the halls. You have twice as many halls to monitor with a 4-story building. And, I don't know if that, even being 4 stories would increase construction costs, but we have to obviously be supporting more weight on the bottom. So,
well, the footprint is smaller. So the cost, if for an equivalent amount of building, the smaller the footprint, generally the less the cost.
I see. And if I could just change the subject for a moment, the ARPA statement of interest is due tomorrow, I believe, for the city. I don't know if I believe Aaron Brunel and Mr. Soto were going to submit that. I just wanted to check in with him a moment.
Mr. Soto and I spoke, and he decided that he wanted to apply to get some money from some of the other school projects that we have going on right now. So Mr. Soto, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, I had we went to the finance subcommittee for our statement of interest projects on the for our ARP projects. We got window projects going on right now. They haven't started yet at Lawrence, McMahon, and half of Donahue, and a new boiler at Dean. So the finance subcommittee just approved us to move forward under the condition that the mayor and his team move forward with like how the 20% is going to be funded. So what we were thinking was that we should submit for ARPA for the 20% of the window projects, which would then, not add to the, to the city's debt capacity, and instead, use that money because those projects, typically the city council approves those projects because you do get a true 80% reimbursement on those costs. So the other thing is that I don't know, and I think I was talking to you, Aaron, about it. Yeah, I don't. So I guess we are going forward with a statement of interest, but it's going to be for the ARP projects, and that takes into consideration the city's ability to pay anyways, because they typically fund those projects. So I thought the better approach was to submit for that.
For those who don't know the acronym, ARP is an accelerated repair project that the MSBA helps fund as well. It's like a different sector of their business, if you could say.
So would that be using our full capacity, or would there still be some capacity left for ARPA funding for this?
So considering the amount of what I know we're going to be getting for requests, it's a great deal about, and I have to make this puzzle work. This project they're working on, the ARP project, is going to be a few million. And so we could either A, borrow, or B, use ARPA money to cover that, which Anthony and Aaron were just describing. And the reason why we're going that direction is it's almost the same difference, whether if we borrow to pay for that ARP project, then that reduces our borrowing capacity for the school project. So if we use ARPA to cover the cost of these ARP project, that's a couple million of borrowing capacity we had. It's almost like the same difference. But I am working on another angle. Can't speak too much on it currently, but it seems a little promising, a good chunk of cash to help defray our borrowing costs as much as possible. I'm trying to make available. So, but we did talk about it, Dave, to your point.
Yeah, I'm just making sure we don't miss out on any.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so I want to get Jessica's comments.
So Deborah actually had her hand up first.
I think Deborah was first.
Okay, Deborah.
And then Mark, and then I'm just going to point out, you guys, it's 8:30.
All right, thank you. I'll just try to be brief. I'll go in order. I thought the Mount Vernon group was really impressive, especially with their timeline, potentially promising that 1 year earlier than we were expecting. And of course, their cost effectiveness. I thought their design was really nice too. Flansburg, I thought they were not very focused in their, aside from their technical issues, I just felt like they were giving us too many ideas, and so I wasn't into them as well. But I was really excited about Jones, Whitsett, and when they presented, my heart lit up, and they just spoke to me in all the ways that I wanted to be spoken to about our community and inclusion, and I understand everyone's comments about they had an unfair advantage, but I just so appreciate the time they've taken in our community, and it was so reflected in the design and thoughtfulness. And I think what it comes down to is what Margaret said about finding an equitable way to determine escalation with all the groups, because I feel like they were just giving us numbers and it didn't feel like it was in an equal way. So I think that'll help us make some cost decisions, but my heart goes with Jones, Whitsett. That's it.
Thanks, Deborah. Jessica?
All right, so I don't want to reiterate what everybody's saying, but aside from the cost, my viewpoint was with the Whitsett, they were like the only ones who didn't speak about things that needed taken away from their design. And because they were under budget, I feel like they left room for us to add in extras if necessary. Not Whitsett, I'm sorry, Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon they were the only ones who didn't speak about taking things away. The second one, I agree with what everybody said. I just don't feel like we're with the second one. Like they didn't do enough homework. Between Whitsett and Mount Vernon, Whitsett's great. They have the time frame. They didn't know too much about the cost. We understand that. But my perspective on that was the 4 floors, time for students to get to their classes, emergencies, it's a little much. So if like Whitsett and Mount Vernon could collaborate and just partner up, like we would have this dream school, like I love the gymnasium on the exterior. I love the kids in middle school being able to have a little freedom to get to a different class, or the courtyard. I love the green space in Mount Vernon. I love the usage of it. The opportunity to plant things, maybe even enhance the school food. Just simple things to detailed things that could benefit from both. I feel like if Mount Vernon had time to do community research or use the community research, it would be a head-to-head between Mount Vernon and Whitsett. But I wanted to bring that to attention, that it's just Mount Vernon. I don't know if it's their experience or just having built so many schools, they kind of knew where to leave room and what not to do. Opposed to Whitsett, they were very humble, but and they had time, but I feel like they were cultured to us 3 years ago. But now that we've, I don't know, like went into depth of what we really need, is it completely tailored now to all of our needs? So that's just my take. Aside from what's already been said, I agree with everything that's already been said also. So thank you for that moment.
Thanks, Jessica. Mr. Lubel?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in all the applications that were submitted, all the layouts were learning pods. 6th graders were with 6th graders, 7th graders with 7th graders, 8th graders with 8th graders. So they were kind of similar in that regard. And I guess a question, to think about really from the school's perspective is, what does that 1 year sooner mean to the district and to the kids and the disruptions that are going to occur because, we're going to this new model. So.
Yeah, that 1 year really means that we'd be able to move kids out of Dean and move kids out of Metcalf a year sooner than we would be able to.
Mean maintenance savings and stuff, I would assume, right? Facilities costs.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I did not see 1 year earlier. I saw
September 2025.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
It was a year earlier.
Yep.
In my opinion, and I'm spending, inordinate amount of time on rezoning, although I'd love to get kids into a new PEC as soon as possible. When you look at the investment of this building in our community, I would much prefer to make sure that we have the building that we want and not compromise on that. I think it's more important, let's have a long-term outlook, even though it's not ideal. It's the areas are going to be sufficient. We're making sure they're sufficient.
Well, if it was 1 year and the price was $50 million at 8%, that's $4 million. If it was $70 million at 8%, that's close to $6 million. So it's tangible.
Yes.
All right. I can't thank you all enough for your insightful input on this. If nobody
I think
has
Jamie has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. I thought that was still Jessica's hand raised. I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Jamie.
No, it's just one quick question. So Mount Vernon Group would be that model middle school where Jones Whitsett would not. And maybe Margaret or Aaron can just what do we see as the benefits of going with a model middle school? It's time, procurement, money versus not a model middle school. So just since so many people did like both, before we got into this, we thought nobody would like anyone but Jones Whitsett. but now that, you know, people like the Mount Vernon group. So what are the benefits of using a model middle school? Because people do like this design. And if there are benefits, it's something to consider also. That's all I was just throwing out there.
So we talked about this at the last meeting, so I'll reiterate. It's mostly time. That's the biggest thing. There is a significant savings in the time that needs to be spent on design development and construction documents because they've been through that process once before. I think that's the only thing you can definitively say about the model school process. I think some people would argue that there might be some savings on fees, but you know, as I noted at the last meeting when I did the analysis, once you fold in the need to redesign the site and you need to redesign for the energy code, those are pretty significant redesign efforts. And I think you saw today some of the ways in which they would modify the buildings to change the program. So that redesign piece, it's much harder to like wrap your heads around it, partly because we don't have a flat site. So you're not, you know, sort of that's not an easy transition. But the time is a real thing. And as Whitney said, it has value. I don't believe there's anything else that you could point to here. And actually, I thought the Flansburg thing was interesting because one of their model schools, as they noted, had some more expensive materials and structural systems. And, you know, their point was, well, we can change those, right? So you can't really, what you're talking about is picking a model school based on a plan that you like. I think it's interesting that people really liked the courtyard piece. We should talk about that some more at the next meeting. That is different from the other one. It is a bigger footprint as a result. But that's something I'm hearing from several people, that people really thought that the courtyard was a good thing. I see Erin has a question about this.
I would just like Jackie Glasheen to talk to, if she doesn't already know, to talk to a couple schools before then about how much our schools use the courtyards, because I do not see them being used and I see them being weeds, but I could totally be wrong. So I would just love for Jackie to bring some data to that conversation.
I would share the same thing from my experience with schools that I've been involved in, that unbelievably underutilized courtyards.
Do we have any outdoor school learning spaces now at any schools?
So Mark, we have several courtyards. So as recently as Ian White, that has outdoor seating, it has picnic tables, it was when the addition was originally created in the 80s, it was supposed to be this beautiful courtyard. Every courtyard that I've ever had to oversee becomes underutilized, overgrown. It's a pain in the neck to maintain. Nobody really, the only kids that use it at Ian White currently are the pre-K recess kids, and that's on a really good day. So it is my experience in every school that I've worked at that has had a courtyard, that it is not a utilized space. And it's beautiful. I was like looking at that beautiful design, and all I can see in my head is, oh, the gardening club's not gonna, it's gonna overgrow. They're gonna put a shed out there. It's gonna get filled with raccoons. Then the squirrels are gonna crawl on the ceiling, and it's a nightmare.
So the schools no school is using any outdoor learning space?
Not really, Mark.
Really?
Other than like, you know, let's go outside and we're going to independent read outside. Let's go outside and blow off a rocket.
Right.
But other than that, I'm
just curious because all
time on learning is super tight, and the transitions
Yeah.
in and out are sometimes people don't want to do that. So I don't think that, I'm not saying it's not a great idea. I'm just being realistic that it's not currently happening. And I would bet if you asked other communities as well, it's not currently happening.
Nice to look at.
Until the weeds come in.
Jessica, did you have another question?
Just real quick, I'm sorry, thank you. For the courtyard thing, even for lunches, like older kids, they don't use it, like even to eat outside? Okay.
High school did away
I was just curious.
Are they allowed to? Do they know they can?
do they know that that was my next question. Do they know, are they aware that they're allowed to go outside to use these spaces?
So when I went to Holyoke High, there's a
We
court.
ate outside.
I never went through there because I've always been under the impression that you weren't allowed. I wasn't trying to get in
Right.
trouble.
Even
Walking
as a
courtyard at
walkthrough
short
to
time.
another class.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
if
mean, when I went to Holyoke High, we were allowed to eat outside, but I'm pretty sure that's
Me
changed.
too. When I went,
But I think
a
a lot
million
of it
years
might
ago.
have to do with supervision too, though.
yeah,
Okay.
I think it does have to do with supervision and elopement.
If you
Yeah.
let kids have free access to that courtyard, they'll go smoking cigarettes out there.
Well, if you do glass windows around it and administration offices at the glass windows, you know, you can design, right? Design. So
Well,
anyway, sorry.
so Jessica, I want to speak to that because this is an important point. The reason that those schools have courtyards is that they're trying to make very efficient floor plans. So the most efficient floor plan for these schools is to have a corridor with a classroom on either side. If you have a corridor on the inside of the courtyard, you've lost a huge amount of efficiency. So these schools, you're never going to end up with a school of this size that needs to be cost effective with a corridor around the courtyard providing supervision. You're going to have classrooms on the courtyard.
Right. Okay. And so my original comment, I just wanted to point out maybe food for thought and just an open comment. I felt like Mount Vernon, they were willing to adapt to suggestions, whereas when we made suggestions to Whitsett, they kind of were like, you already have a plan. So I just wanted to put that out there as because she said that she was like, you already have. So just to keep a mind about it, just as we take some time to meditate on all that was heard and said and spoken on tonight. But that was my last point.
The
Thank you.
gymnasium is going to come from the second floor.
All right, guys. So is it all right that we move on to the few
Very
other
good.
things that we need to discuss? There was no public comment that came in tonight. To me, Miss Linville, I'm assuming you did not receive any either. So that being said, we already discussed interviews and applications. I don't think we're going to be voting per se, unless you wanted to do a vote just for survey purposes. But I definitely don't think we're ready to vote on that. So as of right now, our next meeting is Thursday, December 3rd. Next week, as you know, is Thanksgiving. And then the last week of the month. So we meet again in basically 1, 2, 3 weeks. Now, do we think that we need to meet before that, Margaret, to kind of come to terms with this, or is the 3rd timely enough?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like to meet, obviously next week we've all got better things to do. So are we talking about the 1st, December 1st?
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks away. And
yeah,
I think that one thing that we could do to kind of make sure we capture our good thinking today is I can send out a survey that shows like, what did you like about each of the 3 proposals? What did you dislike? And then what do you have questions on? And divide it up. And then I think the other maybe commitment that Margaret and Whitney could work on, maybe with Jamie, or I don't want to volunteer myself, but the figuring out kind of a more like comparison for the money situation.
Yeah,
and
well,
then
I'm gonna take that chart that Frank showed, and I'm going to put the Jones Whitsett projects on it too, so you can see those side by side. And then I'll develop a comparative. I'll use the estimator they're all using to develop a comparison of escalated costs, so that you can get a sense of what that looks like.
Okay, so just for clarity, you guys, the agenda was wrong. It said Thursday, December 3rd, but it's actually Thursday, December 1st. That will be our next meeting.
Yeah, I'll fix that. Margaret, I also just wonder if you could do some more careful look at the schedules and really pressure test them, because if 2025 fall is a big benefit to folks, like I do want to I would want this group to understand kind of what the risks are with that type of timeline. Like, you know, it could mean if something gets delayed, we might open in November. What would that mean? Would we do that? Things like that. Just like kind of pressure test something that sounds really good right now.
Sure. I have the same issue, and I would be grateful to have a chance to do that.
She was working for us.
Okay, so I'll do a survey and get that out tomorrow, guys.
Okay.
Margaret is going to lead some sort of finance thing and a schedule pressure testing thing.
Okay, Jessica, did you have another question?
I just didn't look. Do we have
mute yourselves, please?
Tell her on the phone.
Sorry. Am I mute? Can you hear me?
It's not you, Whitney.
Yeah.
Whitney and
Yeah.
Bonnie. Can you guys mute yourselves? Thank you.
I muted them.
I should know this. Do we have the floor plans and the things that they had submitted already, right? We have a copy of that? Yeah, okay. Just, I want to look at that again.
There's a folder that has
the Dropbox, right?
plans. There's a submissions.
Okay.
Okay. So, but Jessica, if you have any questions, call me and I can kind of walk you through.
I will. I can't, like, I'm not the professional, so I look at the less detail, like, I don't know, the student's perspective. And I mean, we all do, but like, I'm not knowledgeable in the cost, but I'm knowledgeable in what is the usage. So that's kind of like my cup of tea. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All set?
All right, awesome. So the only other thing that we need to do, you guys, is approve our minutes from our last meeting. So if I can have a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, and Aaron Linville has a question.
And I second that.
Margaret, are you getting back to the designers to kind of let them know we need more time to digest and not to expect to hear anything from us in 3 weeks for 3 weeks?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back and ask them for some data and tell them about the decision timeline.
Thank you.
Okay. So Mark seconded made the motion. Who's my second?
Jessica?
Jessica's my second. All those in favor of improving the minutes, please use your electronic hands or your real hands. Any opposed? I didn't ask for further discussion, but I'm assuming there is none. Okay, great. Anything else? That was just a vote. It's okay. Whitney, did you have a question or you're just voting?
He opposed the minutes.
I think he was late on the approval.
Let the record show.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Like Margaret mentioned, if you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to send an email. You can email myself, Miss Linville, or Miss Wood, and we'll, move the questions around as they need to be. Everybody have an amazing Thanksgiving. Don't forget the play at the high school started last night. It's tomorrow. Last night, tonight, and tomorrow is the final show for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So try to get out to that. And I believe it's a home game this year for the football game on Thanksgiving. Oh, it's away. Sorry, it's away. But if you can make it to Chicopee, or no, we play.
South
Hadley. Play now, South Hadley.
South Hadley.
We're back to Chicopee. Battle of the Bridge.
It used to be
that is,
Chicopee.
right?
Only been 6 years.
Anyway, it's in South Hadley. If people can make it to the game, have a great Thanksgiving, everybody, and thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Aaron. Good night.